handsome.
Yay! Thanks, sis. Just for you guys, because my goodness, like this is pretty early for me.
Is it? Oh, what is the time then now,
It's 6
actually?
o'clock. It's 6 o'clock, but I'm never this dressed up.
Yeah. But no one will know. Yeah.
No.
So, just quickly making sure with your. So, just tell me how you basically just recording off your laptop. It's
Yes.
all the sound from. Okay.
Yeah.
And you don't have two of these pages open, just to be sure. Also,
No.
just sometimes people have had two browsers of Riverside open.
No, I've just got the one. Let me close this down here. There we go. Yeah.
Okay. And what else do I need to say? Notifications turned off.
Yeah. No
Okay.
notifications, phone on silent.
You have a glass of water.
Yes.
Cool, man. All right. So what is the time there now?
It's exactly basically 6 o'clock.
Oh wow. Oh my
3
God.
minutes. 3 minutes past 6.
Sorry.
No.
Did you meditate?
I did.
Did you? Do you know what I thought? I bet you he's going to get up and meditate, and then he's like going to get all clear about, his thoughts and life and everything.
I'm not that clear, but hey, I had a rough, not a rough day. I was painting yesterday, so it was
Oh,
it was a different painting experience because I ended up painting at some person who's been bugging me on Instagram for like years to
okay.
purchase some of my work, and then somehow he just asked me to do a mural for him instead of like taking an artwork. So I was like, it's something
yeah.
spontaneous, something that I would never have done before, like just going
Yeah.
to his house and going to bring
Did you
him
have to
there.
go to, you had to go to his house?
Yeah.
Oh, and what's that like as an artist to have to go to someone's house and then you're in their space and energy and
I love it.
you do?
Yeah. For me, it's a chance to learn. It's a chance to be exposed to like an environment that's different. So I mean,
Yeah.
I live for those kind of opportunities just to drink in something different. That's
Yeah.
out of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
But I allow my gut to kind of guide me as well. So it's not just usually just going and just doing these things like all the time. It's usually like if something moves me or I feel there's some inherent need to do something, then I respond to that.
So just show us the picture behind you, since I mean it's kind of like in our face, but it's not. So what is that?
So that's a Marc Chagall, basically. It's a
Oh, wow.
so it's a lithograph of Marc Chagall. Um,
Is he one of your admirers? Do you admire him?
I do admire him. Like, I mean, I admire like
Yeah.
a whole bunch of people. Like, I mean, I'm just very, very cautious of admiring people because I grew up having a lot of the people that I did admire kind of not live up to those kind of expectations. So, like, from a young age, I've learned to just kind of put people on pedestals, and even that's why I have like such varied styles, even with regards to my work, is because
Yeah.
I don't allow myself to just be boxed.
Yeah. Yeah.
To just, I think,
Well, let's now everyone can hear that you're an artist just based on this bit of cryptic information. So let's maybe just go in there. So all of my listeners who followed the first season knew that I interviewed Ree Traweek, who is a phenomenal artist and also a very good friend of mine.
yeah,
She said we need to talk, that you would love this, sort of conversation also about life and, just connecting what you do in life with your truth and, synchronizing the purpose there with our daily activity, So that's, it's actually taken us a year to talk.
I know. I mean, it's for me, it's that kind of thing that I also I believe that things will work out eventually, like
I agree. Sure.
and I enjoy that persistence as well, like just to people making a concerted effort to get a hold of me. It's like I kind of like that.
You bloody artists. No, well, it's funny, right? They say how everything we do in life like contributes to where we end up and where we're supposed to go. So I guess my sales beginning in life has contributed to that persistence. But okay, cool. So you're in Canada now. That's all I know. You're an artist. That's all I know. And I've literally I've seen a couple of your works pop up on Instagram because Ree said let you just connect with him there. But I haven't gone into it. My husband actually, I told him I was interviewing you, and he sort of like went to try and look, but actually then we got interrupted by kids. So,
Right.
and I said, don't tell me anything. But so let's, go in there. Tell us who you are, where you're from, because I do know that, where you're from, and why you're in Canada now, and sort
Why
of
am I
let's
in
flow
Canada?
from there. And who you
Well,
are, where you're from, yeah.
yeah, like I mean, I grew up in Cape Town in a place called Mandalay, which is kind of like on the outskirts of Khayelitsha. Um, so I had a very kind of like interesting upbringing. My exposure to just like the environment. It wasn't, there was nothing artistic. I wasn't exposed to
Mm,
anything artistic. For me, art was it was a vehicle to kind of escape. It was
yeah.
art was always something that I used as escapism as a kid, and it definitely saved me like in many circumstances because like art was one of the thing I could pour my energy into it and be distracted when a lot of my friends or people that I grew up with, they obviously didn't have that the same kind of dedication to something at that young age.
Mm,
So they kind of got swept up in the environment, and yeah, like I mean, there's a lot of that kind of stories where I've just seen people that I've grown up with just pass away, or just making terrible life decisions. So like um, for me, that was like the start of like having this interesting kind of view of art as well, just because of that upbringing, growing up in Mitchell's Plain, um, and seeing all these different nuances. And I was a very quiet kid as well, so like I was an observer and a student of life, and just really trying to absorb as much as I could with my eyes, like
mm,
just taking things in.
mm,
Um, so yeah, like I mean, I ended up spending a lot of my time in South Africa and not really. Art was always, like I said, it was a way for me to deal with emotional content that I
mm-hmm,
was feeling, and I knew that this was the only thing that I wanted to do with my life because
mm,
it's a strong inherent feeling and that I've had from a very young age and persisted, even though like I'm the only one in my family that like chose this route. So
yeah.
even that in itself, it's been a tough journey, just because I haven't had the guidance, or I wasn't exposed to even just the literature or the understanding of art. So a lot of what I've gauged over the years has been a lot of self-discovery and just like figuring things out for myself, and also having that observation, always at the core of who I am, and then meeting
Mm,
people along the way, pleasantly, just meeting people like Ree, for example, who really switched me on, like so. Um, so yeah, so I ended up moving to Canada because for love, for reasons of love, like I was dating somebody for a long time in South Africa in Cape Town, and
mm,
she was a physician, studying to be a doctor.
mm-hmm,
So we've been together for a very long time, and then we decided to do something, break the mold, and just do something um, unusual. And also that generational trauma as well that like I've experienced as well. Like it was always this desire of mine, and also my wife as well, like just to do something um, bold, to
yeah.
just kind of, I don't know, present something else, because like even the fact that in my family we were the first to leave the country and go and just choose a different option, it
Mm,
was crazy. We left everything, and this was like when I met Ree. Like I mean, 2 years after meeting Ree, I ended up coming to Canada.
wow.
Um, so it's just been a very interesting journey, because also I was just starting to discover myself when I left Cape
Oh,
Town,
wow.
and then I came
Yeah.
to this harsh, remote kind of part of Canada, like Saskatchewan, and I'm still here. So it's been like 10, 11 years, and it's it's been an interesting journey, I have to say. Very interesting journey. Just in terms of the contrast between the different cultures, etc. And um, kind of, it's been good to be removed to some degree from all of the nuances from home, just even the political system, everything, just the way that I even perceived myself. Like when I was in Cape Town, I was very insecure um, as an artist because I was developing at a slower rate than everyone else because, like I said, I wasn't exposed to art. Like art was just this thing that I had to do with my life. I just didn't know
Yeah.
how I was going to do it. So yeah, like I mean, so I've had interesting trajectories, but I've been my biggest thing is just to be open with life and to absorb. And it's taken me to interesting kind of degrees of growth without
Yeah.
really planning much.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Which is kind of like how an artist also likes to live in a way, right? Is also going with that flow of the universe and as you said earlier, you're an observer. That's what artists do. They observe what's going on around them, they absorb it, they interpret it back into their work. So
and
okay, so let's just back up. You said
mm,
Kailicha, Mitchell's Plain. So for all our listeners in the States and the Netherlands, and let's just explain where that is. Maybe give a little bit of the history of Cape Town
yeah,
to give the nuances that you talk about the nuances. Maybe explain that a little bit.
well, like I mean, the thing is, there's all this kind of racial classes kind of things like in South Africa, like we always having to attach color to something, right? And like for me, I'm part of that generation that understands it's not everything is about color, right? Like not
Yeah.
everything is about color, but you are constantly having to view everything through that lens. Um, so like for me, it was just I had you have all of these outside influences. You have all people just like influencing your decision making. So I just decided for myself that I'm gonna just do my own, choose my own kind of um, path in life. But like Khayelitsha and Mitchell's Plain was it was an interesting kind of place for me as a kid because there was a lot of hardship. You had to deal with a lot of hardship. You had to just I'm still as an adult. I'm still working through a lot of the like. I'm seeing a therapist because of all of the because I was so removed from Cape Town. It's like it was. I had chance to think about everything, and so the past couple of years being in Canada, like and taking stock of what Cape Town represented and what Mandalay and Khayelitsha represented, it's been powerful. It's been very powerful for me. Like I mean, and I've been trying to like even with COVID happening, I feel disconnected from my motherland, um, and so the connection that I have with Khayelitsha and Mitchell's Plain is it's deep because like I mean I put a lot of pressure even on myself to succeed as an artist because I knew that there wasn't anybody doing what I was doing. Like I mean I was studying and um, I studied graphic design, but I mean, everyone that studied graphic design, we were all at this kind of subpar institution, not getting, good education, etc. And um, it's just like there was everything was tough, and so like I mean, I had to have four jobs, and basically slept on the floor. As one of the few people that didn't have a computer, while I was in college, and had to sleep in the computer rooms and stuff. Just to like meet the deadlines, etc. So there's all of those kind of facets of struggle that one had to endure. But like for me, what it's taught me is to be kind of is to like you don't have to have much in order to create, you know, powerful, profound work. And so I think that's the beauty of what it's taught me is that I have degrees of I know what it means to have nothing, to have very little, and then I also now I know what it means to like live a good life, So I have those.
Yeah.
So I really I try to take stock of all of those things and to give back, and so that's why I'm very like it hurts that I don't get to come back to South Africa very often as I would like because a big part of what I want to do is just like give back to people in my community that I grew up in, because there's a lot of brown boys and girls who just, there's no hope. There's no idea of hope. There's no prospects. Um, there's none of those kind of things that a lot of people take for granted.
Mm.
And so that's why even for me, I've had a lot of pressure put on myself. I've put a lot of pressure on myself to succeed as well as an artist, because I feel like there's so much people that could benefit, like people in my community that could just benefit from seeing somebody like myself doing the work that I do.
Yeah.
So that's why I appreciate the history that I have, which is rooted in struggle,
Mm.
because it's given me so much more than, you know, um, life lessons that I've applied
Yeah. Yeah.
numerous times over and over. Even when I do kind of workshops with kids, like I stress that you don't have to have the best. You don't have to have the best utensils,
Mm.
etc., in order to express yourself. All you need is just, that desire and that drive to voice, what it is that like drives you and moves you. So,
Mm.
but people need to see that. You need to see an example of that. So I've put a lot. That's why I put that pressure on myself to be that,
Yeah.
to be
Yeah.
that person.
Mm.
So I mean that
Would you say that you are someone that's driven away from, or sort of moving towards something?
I think I'm moving towards something. Um, I think like being removed from everything that I knew, like just coming to Canada, living in a place that's very remote as well.
Mm.
So it's like uh, you have lots of time to think, and that introspection is it's uh, it's something that people don't. It's a luxury to have time and to have introspective moments. And so I've really
Mm.
had a lot of that. Like 6 months of the year, it's like snowing and brutal weather out there. So you have to
Mm.
just retreat inwards. And so, like for me, just retreating inwards and figuring all of these things out and working through stuff has been like powerful. But um, like my work really deals with the dark, the good and the
Mm.
bad. And I think I've always projected good. Like when you see me, I'm smiley, I'm happy, and I'm a very
Mm.
cheerful kind of demeanor. But because of what I've observed over the years, like it doesn't, nothing comes out in just a
Mm.
happy, pleasant kind of way. I always look at things from this, light and dark, good and bad,
Mm.
and trying to find the beauty within both of them. So
Yeah.
like the work that I do is like it's very much informed by my life, and so
Yeah.
I'm in a journey. Like I can see, like I never used to paint in colors, and then with the birth of my daughter, I just decided, hey, like I feel differently. And for me, when I feel differently, it usually comes out as a different style or a different way
Mm.
of expressing
Mm.
myself. So I really made a lot of transitions by just embracing all of these little differences.
Yeah. Maybe explain, for the listener,
Yeah.
like,
So
and also, I mean, for the viewer, I don't know if you've got something you want to take out and show just now, but I mean, just explain for the listener, like, what can they see in their mind's eye while they're maybe driving in their car now, listening to us talking, or, whatever they're doing, like, paint a picture in their mind's eye.
about what I do, and like
No, what they can expect your paintings look like
yeah.
maybe try and
Um,
explain that. I mean, not your paintings, your drawings
the
mostly,
work,
right?
yeah, like the drawings. Like I mean, like I said, the drawings are for me. It's an opportunity to slow people down. It's an opportunity like just to stop you dead in your tracks. So like technically, I'm strong. Technically, I'm able to do because I've been practicing for a long time. So technically, I always wanted to be strong to be able to interpret a lot of the dreamscapes that I would have, or just the thoughts that I would have, and um, so I've been working a long time to just be able to adequately express myself, right? And then, so now I'm in this phase now where a lot of the subject matter is it plays with perception. Like I love the idea that everything is so you can play with ideas and concepts a little bit more. And I mean, that's why I really like surrealistic, impressionistic kind of um, ways of expressing myself, because
Mm-hmm.
I have um, is less control. And I don't like control all that much because of being controlled. I've been controlled by many forces in my life. So my art is usually an opportunity to like step away and break free from
Yeah.
that constraints. So a lot of what I do is very organic and very um, it's filtered through. Like I mean, I have this thing called pareidolia, like where you see shapes in
Mm-hmm.
like the clouds and stuff like that. So I basically see that as a kid. I've had this thing where I can look at texture and see images popping out. Um, and so I've run with that for years. And so now the images that I do, they are strange sometimes, but like I've seen similarities between what I do and Aztec work and Mayan Polynesian work. I've seen so many similarities without even
Mm.
trying to tap into any of these things. But these dreamscapes, like just trusting my dreams, trusting the visuals that I have, the feelings, and then mashing all of these things together. Um,
Mm-hmm.
for me, it makes things very exciting. It makes life exciting for me. But to take all of these, the technical aspects of what I've harnessed, and then to also, because I'm a deeply emotive person, and I love people, and I like giving people something to think about and
Mm.
go bad. And so the work that I do is immersive. So you don't just get the answers immediately. Um,
Yeah.
a lot of
Yeah.
the work that I do, it kind of forces you to go inward yourself and find meaning within it, and extract as much as you can for yourself, because there's so much in the work that I do that kind of feeds into psychology as well, that is trying to deal with ego and the detachment from ego and all of these things.
Mm-hmm.
And um, it's a lot of my personal struggles that I've given a language for, like a
Yeah.
visual language. um,
And is it more again for the listener now, right? And I mean,
yeah,
obviously they can go later and go in the show notes and then look on your links and then see it. But just is it more because as I said, I deliberately don't go into people's stuff until I've interviewed them, So
yeah.
is it more, is it landscape? You say this dream work, but is it landscape? Is it more portrait? Is it more, what can people expect that
Yeah.
that you do? And are you using a pen? Are you using a paintbrush?
I bounce around between
Yeah.
different mediums. Like I mean, I'm a lot of I like to do things that kind of have an etching feel to it. So like I do a lot of fine detail drawings with fine
Mm.
oil pens that has a lot of like Dürer, like Albrecht Dürer, and also just I just love Rembrandt's etchings, because like I mean, growing up in I went to school in Cape Town. I went to Cape Town High, and we would always have these kind of art tours where we go and have a look at Rembrandt's work. And so for me, the
Mm.
etchings is what we saw regularly. So for me, that was something that I always wanted to emulate. It's just I love the
Yeah.
intense detail. And then meeting Ria as well, and you see somebody who has another fascination and love for detail, but just on the other end of the spectrum, which is a little bit more playful and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So for
Yeah.
me, it's like the work that I do is kind of a marriage between um, this high fantasy, high art fantasy slash very Hieronymus Bosch dark.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Which is one of Ree's favorites as well.
yeah, and I think it's that kind of thing that I'm always I love intricacies and storytelling, and just where something can keep on delivering an image. One image can like keep on delivering so much kind of narratives. I'm really drawn to that, and I think it's those kind of things that for me, like artists, even now with COVID and all of the things happening in the world, I feel empowered as an artist to really, my job really is to make people have those introspective moments, because you don't want to be preachy, and you don't like to have messaging, punted across to you. But with art, you can deliver a message. You can have people can have a quiet discussion with themselves, and it'll make you think. Oh my God.
No, I'm here.
Okay.
What's wrong?
Oh no. It's just the browser closed on me. There we go.
Oh, goodness. Okay.
Yeah. So like, I
Yeah.
mean, where was I now?
Well, you were talking about the whole preachy thing, and and with art, it's a quiet conversation. That's what
Oh
you were
yes,
saying, and
yes.
yeah.
And for me, that's like I feel driven to put out work that kind of harnesses a lot more of that kind of element to it. So like even with psychology, like I mean, I started getting into like Freud and Jung and just existentialism and all of these
Mm-hmm.
kind of like things for my own healing, for my own kind of understanding on life. And but it's been interesting to just apply some of that thinking, to the work that I do as well. And so
Well,
I'm, yeah,
let's go in, and you talk a lot about your childhood, and um, childhood is one of, right, that's the beginning.
it's the beginning.
That's the beginning, and it just seems to be, the biggest.
It is.
Still, even in an adult's life, your childhood is the foundation. It's the roots. It's the way you came into the world, and the way you see your world, and the way you then interpret it later on. And as you say, I mean,
Yeah.
we all have to do work in one way or another. But again, also just going back to like Kylie Mitchell's Pain, because you talk about that, so for, guys listening right now, like that's I mean, is Kylie regarded as a squatter camp, or what is it regarded as?
Well, I mean, that's the whole thing. It's like it's such a, it is a squatter camp, right? Like, I mean, it is a
Is
squatter.
it? I mean, I also haven't lived in South Africa for 22 years.
I mean,
So
it's
is
the
it
largest.
still, or?
It's the largest informal settlement in Africa. So, like, I
Yeah.
mean, it's if you think of the amount of people, in that designated space, that for me is the
Yeah.
craziness. It's the amount of people that you would have in that kind of confined space.
Yeah.
But for me, I think it's what I learned the most is from all of that is through adversity. Like you would always see people in um, with a smile on their face, regardless of the adversity, and people playing on the streets. So like, I mean, that's the kind of upbringing that, like, for me, when I had the chance to take stock of the beauty of what I always just saw everything as being, this was bad and this was scary, and you know, um, fear was always at the heart of, like, it was always something that I was carrying with me growing up. But then when I was removed and, like, living in Canada and thinking about home, um, it's just all these images started flooding of how people carried themselves. All the sissies walking with the big bags of produce that they were gonna sell for the day, etc. But it's the smiles, it's the way that they interact with people, it's the way that people are interacting with each other, regardless of the hardship. And I think that's so, like, being here in Canada, you see hardship, and it's like how people deal with it very differently. People are very angry, resentful, and like there's always this animosity when it comes to the world is, you know, treated me poorly, and I deserve more. Whereas in South Africa, you just see so much of that resilience and just people persisting in that. And I think that's what I miss about Africa is that you have people that are going through extreme, harsh scenarios, but are still trying to extract the beauty of life, because ultimately there is so much to be in awe of. Um, but yeah, like I mean, that was just it was very interesting as a child growing up and seeing all of these very dysfunctional things. And then you have, like for me, is when I ended up being exposed to people like Ree and people that had just a different upbringing. It made me think about like my upbringing even more. Just like what was I exposed to, and um, you just end up with more and more questions and more like unresolved um, kind of issues. But for me, it's
Yeah.
very interesting. Just always thinking about my childhood, and that's why I'm also in this kind of. I feel like I am going somewhere because I've been dealing with my childhood head on, and um, and that's why in many ways I've chosen to even in my relationship with my own children, like I use art and I use expression and how to communicate and all of these things. I try my best to create the version that I never got, and also just to just
In
highlight
what way? In what way? What do you mean by
even with
that?
art,
Create the version.
even with art, like I mean, with my daughter, like I always aspired to having um, the type of relationship that I always wanted. Uh,
Mm,
so I try my best to foster that in the best
nice.
possible way, and then a combination of psychology and all of these things, right? Like I mean, so you just have a better grasp of how to communicate, how to like deliver um, your expectations to a young child, and
Yeah.
so you just learn all of these things. But my daughter, my 8-year-old daughter, is one of my greatest teachers when it comes to art, and that's just because of the amount of time that we spent together drawing. And on
Yeah.
top of that,
Beautiful.
it's she's taught me so much because I love the spontaneity and the way that kids express themselves and how
Mm,
freely they just jump into things. And that's the way that I create as well. I'm very organic. Like I'll just jump into something. Like I mean, like even the mural that I started yesterday, the people were blown away because there was nothing on the wall, and then the next minute there was stuff happening, and I just started painting immediately. There was very little guides, just went for it. And so for me, it's that adrenaline rush of just jumping in and not knowing where it's gonna go, but just trust your gut. And then like that's what I learned from my kids, and
yeah.
it's
Did you
been
learn that only from your kids though?
no, I had a good art teacher as well that just like always drove it home to loosen up because that control, like me
Mm,
wanting to be in control of everything, started at a young age because, like, I mean, I wanted to set myself apart from everyone else
mm,
in my surroundings. So
yeah.
I gave myself these guidelines, and so it ended up stifling me, because I needed more than that. And fortunately, I had a good art teacher that exposed me to um, the art of thinking. It just like
Yeah.
made me question and made me think, which was like probably the best thing that anyone could have done for me. It was just to inspire um, a questioning mind.
Mm,
Um,
mm,
so I'm very grateful for like that art teacher, Miss Jolly.
yeah.
Um,
Who?
Miss Jolly, Lucinda Jolly,
Miss
and we are
Jolly.
good, friends. Like we still talk all the time. Like we chat regularly, and she gives me advice on things and on life still, and um, yeah, I keep those people very close to me. People that have made substantial kind of impacts in my life. Uh,
Yeah, that's good. That's a skill also. That's a life skill. To
yeah,
keep people close is a life skill.
it
A lot
is.
of people chase people away.
Oh my God. Like and I was kind of running into that same situation of pushing people away, and then
Mm.
I'm glad that that's kind of resolved now.
Why were you doing it?
Well, it was just the tortured artist life that I was living. Like, I mean, a lot of self-loathing. Like, I mean, I have I had a lot of self-loathing. I didn't view anything that I did really well. Like, even the art. Like, I'm only starting to love what I do, or even just like what I do, only now.
Mm.
And I've always had people telling me, "Oh, you're amazing at what you do," but it never resonated with me. Never.
Yeah.
And I think
And
that's,
it actually doesn't matter. This is the thing, right? It doesn't matter how many people tell a human their work is so amazing. It's like an Instagram like, right?
yeah,
It's this quick adrenaline rush, but
yeah,
it will never change your own perspective of yourself.
no, no, totally. And so yeah, it's been a deep dive, like just trying to figure out all of these things. And
Let's just start. Let's like you. I'm curious now. So I'm picturing you. Can you maybe describe your home like as a little boy, and then at what point do you remember really being fascinated with art? Like, was there a point in your life that you actually remember?
yes, um, my dad had this big tree in the yard, and my grandfather also, he is a very handy man, and he built this big swing. He built a huge, crazy, huge swing, and we had this big tree. And our home, it was my dad had an interest in gardening, and in that community, nobody people gardening wasn't a thing. Like people weren't doing that. People were really just kind of living in their dilapidated house, and that was okay. So my dad had pride in himself, in his surrounding, in his place, and so from a young age, my dad fostered that kind of a space. So like our backyard was an oasis, um, in this kind of sea of just misery, basically.
Yeah. Wow.
And so I would spend a lot of my grandfather built a tree house. I spent most of my time in this tree. So like I mean that was where my imagination was born. Like my imagination was just it came alive like during those periods. And then obviously I was a very shy kid as well. So you have that isolation of not just I wasn't as bubbly as my sister, who was 3 years younger than me, but like I mean, she's way more bubblier than me. I've got all these hang-ups. I'm always trying to be the good kid. So like um, for me, I
Because
was
you're the oldest. Are
well,
you the oldest?
yes, I was the
Okay.
oldest, and like me and my sister, we were like the golden children of the family because um, we look different. Like I'm very different to a lot of my family. Like hair, everything, the whole spectrum. So like we were like revered, and also me, I have this uh, a, a tangible talent that my parents loved. Like my parents loved the fact that I would win art competitions. I would like always be succeeding in art and things like that. So a lot of people were proud of me at a young age, but like I said, that fed a lot of that insecurities that I ended up having at a later stage because I put a lot on me. There was no artists in the communities that I grew up in. And even me having a hero, like I mean, I used to look up to graffiti. There's a few graffiti artists, um, and that was it because like that was my knowledge. I was that ignorant about art, and art wasn't that prevalent in the community that I grew up in. So um, yeah, it's just
But
childhood.
so what moment do you, I mean, so you've got this tree house, this
So
beautiful big
the
garden. At
treehouse.
what moment?
Yeah, I've been drawing since I was like 5 years old. So I've always just been losing myself in drawing. But it's because of that environment that my father created. Like, I mean, that for me, like, it was escapism. It was like I was in an oasis. I literally was. Like, I mean, we had green grass. Everyone else was like brown, so like all the kids would play in our backyard. So it's that energy, it's all of those things. And I mean, for me, that's why like life informs my decision making in art. So in terms of that, like I mean, that for me is the profound that's what kind of made me choose the path was having that space and having that tree, having that ability because we lived close to a train station as well.
Yeah.
So we lived like a road away from the train station. So like most people would walk and commute through this back alleyway. So me sitting in the top of the tree would be able to see all these people walking by going to the train station, and that's why I was like that informed my love of people. Like, I'd be just nobody knew I'd be in this tree, and I'd just be watching people and watching their behavior, and seeing that interactions, and so. And this is from a young age. Like I was always like a people watcher, and even after work, I would work with read them, and then work until like crazy hours, and then I'll leave and
Yeah.
I'll go to places that people don't like going to. I'll go to the mall. I'll go sit
Mm.
at a mall and just sit there in a corner with headphones on, pretending like I'm listening to stuff, but I don't have anything playing, and just like listen to people. I'll sit there and draw. But my God, it's like it's so interesting. Like I'm just so drawn to all of these different ebb and flows, that you see in different
Mm.
people. And so yeah, like for me, that as a kid, that was like that was those defining moments that also just it meant everything for me to have to have that space and to have that
Yeah.
thinking and just to like after sitting in that tree for example, and then I'd spend hours drawing, hours.
Yeah.
I just lose myself. And even when I
But
was in high
do you
school,
remember being like this third person where you remember thinking, wow, I really like this? Like, do you remember having that sort of epiphany of it's almost third person perspective of yourself?
yeah, like for me, it's always like that. It's that inherent feeling. Like that for me is like the crazy thing. Like I've always felt that I would be nothing else but an artist, nothing else. Like, and everyone was like, no, but what's your other options? I'm like, I don't have any other options. And this was from a young age because the second I picked up like drawing, like I mean, I just never stopped. And that, like my mom said, that from 5 years old, I was just like non-stop drawing.
Yeah.
And that's just the way it's always been for me, because drinking in life, looking at people, seeing things, it kind of like it needs a vehicle, and for art has always been that vehicle. So like, I mean,
Mm.
I drink in as much with my eyes and my ears, and then
Mm.
it's time to go and process all of these things. And
Yeah.
then that's when the
Yeah.
art becomes like this vehicle for everything that I've been absorbing. And that's why I'm also not that conventional artist that just hangs out with just a whole bunch of artists. I,
Yeah.
I don't do that.
But I think that a lot of artists are like that.
No, it's
A lot of
good.
artists, and unless you may be studying or in your younger years, but I think a lot of artists who are really existing as an artist are quite solo.
Yeah, definitely, definitely, and like that's why like I have such a people don't expect me to have this kind of personality as well. Like I'm very approachable. I love conversation. Like when I'm
Yeah.
painting, people are just like, "Oh no, no, like we're not gonna bother you." I'm like, "Please bother me." Like I actually want the
Yeah.
conversation. Like please make it. Uh, like I
Yeah.
love that kind of thing because it's an opportunity to learn, and for me, it's just like I'm very open. So I want my consciousness to shift, and I want to learn something.
Yeah.
So and it could be good or bad, right? Like I mean, I don't really like try and discriminate like between what I'm
Mm.
going to take away from things. So with people, it's just like that's where I try my best to be as open to it, but then I also respect my time alone. Like
Mm.
I respect that, and I
Yeah.
respect how much like I control my time, and that's why you won't get me when you want me. You know, it's
Yeah.
because like I have had that accountability to people where I'm just like, you phone me, I pick up, I'm there, and it's just, there's an expectation to just kind of reach that person and get them and
Mm.
you know get what you want and move on. Like for me, I'm like, nope, I don't function like that. Like
Mm.
I I function with different kind of wavelengths, and I respect myself. If I need to be alone, I'm alone.
Mm.
And then, but I'm not alone and just being, not doing things. Like I'm working through things. I'm trying to figure things, and I just don't allow distractions. And I don't like even like right now. It's just like I mean, it's very important for me to reach my milestone. Like I always say that I'm gonna achieve my personal greatness by 40, and
Mm.
I'm 38. But personal greatness has changed. Like my idea of personal greatness has changed
Mm.
dramatically. So like now I'm very much about honoring myself. Before even honoring my expectations for myself, I would always do what I thought people would like. Even with my Instagram posts, like I mean,
Mm.
just like, oh well, I think I'm gonna do this because I know more people would like this posted this.
Yeah.
Uh, So now I really started to lean in more to what I want, what I need. I don't give a shit whether
Yeah.
or not like this stuff is going to actually resonate with people or not. This is what I
Yeah.
feel strongly about. I'm going to put it out there, and whether it gets likes or not, like doesn't matter to me. But I need to honor that.
Yeah, but it is interesting with Instagram. I mean, I've only got on the Instagram train really late, like, and that's because a
For
friend
you,
of mine in the States who, she just kept saying I have to be on Instagram. And I mean, I'm also someone, if I had the choice, I wouldn't. So, you kind of try and play that Instagram game. But it is interesting. What I notice is when you really do something from the heart, it does, it resonates with others. It comes back to you, I find.
it does, it does. And then, like for me, I get that fulfillment. Like I mean, and that's what drives what I do. Like I mean, I would have left Instagram so many times, but the work that I do, I feel helps so many people. And um, I get messages all the time from random people, just saying how much, expressing strongly how much the work means to them, and um, that kind of gives me a lot of drive to like keep on persisting, even with Instagram, for example.
Yeah.
Even though
Yeah.
I do see its flaws, and I don't embrace every aspect of it because it is problematic in many regards. But I still I see that people do kind of draw something from it. So like it's a tool, and I try and use it wisely as a tool.
So, because, I mean, you've got quite a big audience, don't you, on Instagram, huh?
Yeah,
How
uh,
many people are on your Instagram?
like 73,000.
And was that, I mean, I hope I don't put you on the spot by saying this, but was that completely organic, or did you also sort of try and get
Organic.
some marketing behind it?
That was organic. Like I
That's
mean,
amazing.
that was purely organic, and that's the beauty of it all. Like I mean, I didn't, I wasn't driven by getting more followers, and I'm still not driven by this need to have,
No.
you know, the social currency. I'm not about that. Like I mean, for me, I'm about heart. Everything I do is from the heart, and that's why, like I mean, the stuff that I do, it does resonate with people because I think that people can see through it. You can see when something is genuine, when something has the intentions that it says it
Yes.
has, and when something is just kind of um, I don't know, just geared towards getting a certain kind of message across. Like
Yeah.
for me, I'm that's why I honor that. Like even in terms of using Instagram as a mechanism to sell stuff, I've been
Yeah.
very cautious of that because for me the integrity that I've built, over the years, I don't want to squander that. And like
Yeah.
that's why that organic growth of 73,000 people wasn't just because, like I marketed myself. It was because people saw how diligently I was, putting out my work. I was drawing my kids all the time. So, and that time things were chronological. So like people would see how busy I was. You could see a daily update about what my life was like on Instagram. Whereas now it's just like, you don't get that. So now it's just the algorithm. You fed stuff, and it's like based on what you like. But
Yeah, it's
before, we
true,
could
huh?
do a
Yeah.
chronological order. So, like, I mean, someone like me, I gained a lot of respect because of the speed at which I create work. So I'd post now, and then later on, you'd see me working with something else, and people would just be like, "What are you doing? Do you ever sleep?" And I had erratic hours, but I was just creating and creating, and people were just like, "Man, you're a machine," and it's those kind of things. Like I was just loving the interaction with people in real time. You
Yes.
could be at 2 o'clock, up at 2 o'clock at night, and you're having a conversation with another artist in San Francisco, and
Yeah.
you're bouncing ideas, and everything was in real time. So you could see
And that's,
somebody's
you say,
work.
also, that's before the algorithm changed, where
Yeah,
now it's like, exactly. I find the same. Having been really on it for 2 years, I'd say properly. But I think I was on it just before the algorithm changed.
yeah.
And I noticed that suddenly it was just, I don't know, it got weird. It got
It's empty.
sticky, got
It's
weird.
it's empty. It loses that kind of like community aspect to it, and you lose the control because now at the end of the day you're just getting fed and fed and fed, and it I don't know. Like I mean, that being fed of more of what you like and what you know is not good. not good.
Yeah.
You need
Yeah.
difference. You need variation. You need things that unsettle you. You need things that like that put you out of your comfort zone. You know, that make you think
Exactly.
a little bit more. And so that's why I'm not that much for algorithms because it's flawed. It's a flawed system. Um,
Yeah.
but at the same time, it's like I mean that 73,000 followers. It means nothing, you know, but it means everything, you know.
Hmm.
And for me, it's like it's so crazy. Like I mean, because I'm living my day to day life, and nowhere am I carrying around the 73,000. You know, kind of. I have followers and all of these things. It's just crazy,
No.
but
Hmm.
it's amazing for me when I meet people, and I try to be humble about my life. I try to be humble about what I do. So people are just like, you're an artist. Okay, cool. And I'll show them what I
Hmm.
do, and then they see the followers, and then that gets like, oh, this reaction is just like, whoa. And then people change, and then they just like all of a sudden very different with me, and all of
They
these
react weird.
they react weird, and then people become like weird. And I'm just like, why do you just like shift all of a sudden
Yeah,
when you saw
yeah.
like
Well,
followers?
that's wicked. That's super. I guess that's, I guess that's the wickedness that society presents itself for when you really start to do well at something. How people then you start to threaten people, or you start, people see you differently. It does create a whole different perspective, and also, I guess, social circle that you end up choosing for yourself in a way, right?
Oh yeah, completely. It's like I stay out of all of these things. I'm just like
Mm.
happy go lucky. You meet me, you have gripes with me, tell it to my face.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
say it, and
Well,
that's what
this
yeah.
No, so I keep seeing this picture of this big, beautiful tree and this lush garden, right? This little oasis in the middle of a brown settlement.
Yeah.
Um, and but then I'm also putting dots together of, you talk about having been let down as a child. Um, Question, and you don't, feel free to say
Mhm.
what you want to say, but this trauma as a child, was that directly to you, or was that around you? Was that sort of having to deal with what you were seeing around you with friends and other people, or was it a direct trauma to you? Because feels to me like you in this sort of, it's like a brilliant film. Like, I'm seeing this script play. I can even see Ree, doing her animations and turning it into a whole beautiful animation film, right? I mean, she's amazing at that, right? But I'm just seeing, it's
Incredible.
such a beautiful animation story. Your what you've created in my head. But so yeah, that's, I just want to understand that. It was more towards people around you, that
Yeah.
trauma.
I like. I mean, that was the dysfunction. Was like everything that I was seeing around me, even my family. Like, I mean, from both sides, mom and dad's sides, very dysfunctional. Um, my parents were the healers, the saviors, for everyone. They would be the ones
Wow.
that would, come in, swoop in at like dire moments and help people out. We would give our last to people who had nothing, and so I had very good. That's the lessons that was instilled in me. Like my mom and my dad, like they instilled that kind of service and service to people, to man. Um,
Mm.
you always kind of you dedicate a part of your existence to community and giving back. Um, and so like I have that. Like I mean that's something I so I love old people as well because I used to go to old age homes like with my mom from a young age. Um, but then that being said, like I saw a lot of dysfunctional things like
Mm.
um, alcohol abuse, drug abuse, like um, just outlook, people's outlook on life, no aspirations, no nothing. It's just like
No
people,
hope.
no hope. That's everywhere, everywhere, and it's you don't escape it. It really is in your face, 24/7, and it's like
Wow.
you adjust. You either adjust and you become one of it, or you
Mm.
you don't want anything to do with that, and that was like the weird dilemma that I was in is that I wanted both. I wanted to be in the shit because I wanted to help out in there, but then I
Mm.
didn't want anything of it. And so that's why I became this very conflicted individual, and that's why my work is kind of conflicted.
Yeah.
Like you
Did
have,
you ever dip into the shit, as you say?
um, yeah, like later on in my life, because I was very like, as a good boy, and so for me, the exposure to all of these things like made me curious, and so like I dipped in, but I dipped myself in, knowing what I wanted still. It's not like
It
I
was a
thought
conscious,
it was a
you were
conscious thing.
consciously dipping in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
consciously for my own kind of like understanding of things. That's all. I just wanted to understand things from a
And then we're talking about drugs, yeah.
yeah. Like I mean, I like that's the whole thing. I lived a very closed off life, and very I honored my parents' expectations. I really tried my best because I knew what was going on around me, and I knew that I represented some sort of hope. Or at least that's what I thought. I represented some sort of hope, and I always just saw everyone living their life. Like when everyone was going to the clubs and everyone was having a good time, and people are, embracing their teens, embracing their 20s, and things like that. I wasn't. I wasn't like I was focused. I was like really focused on my work, focused on art, focused on
Yeah.
trying to get out of struggles. But then like I was doing all of this on my own steam with no guidance, with no like mentors or anything. And that's why like
But what do you mean by that? Because you talk about your parents being such amazing people. So
yeah,
where were
they were
they?
very like evangelical, very Christian, very church orientated. And I was led down by the church. I was led down like I think a little bit more. I have deeper concepts, like my own understanding of things. I read, like I do all of these things. So like for me, I was conflicted about a lot of stuff that I was being exposed to. So when it comes to like, I had love, I had love, an abundance of love from my mom and my dad, um, but not that much understanding. Not that much understanding, which is a strange thing.
And
It's
so
love.
when you say understanding, you mean
They didn't
they
understand
weren't
what I did.
able to tap into
No.
to where you were wanting to go with your life or to what your hopes and aspirations were. They were there for you,
Yeah.
but not in a deep conversation, say, where are
There
we
was no
going? What
conversation.
are we doing?
Yeah, there was no conversations. And there's also like this hierarchy system where it's like if you were a kid, you don't ever get to speak to an adult, in any sort of,
Okay. Seen
it's
but
like
not heard.
seen but not heard.
No, yeah.
And it's just like it's one of those things where it's like you knew that. Like you knew that that was the rule. You don't have an opinion. You don't have like anything to say. You have to just kind of know your place. And that's something that I knew and I've confronted that with my folks because I needed that to change for my own kind of well-being, for my own kind of trajectory, and like talking about this personal greatness. I needed to confront all of those things as well.
When
The
did you do that?
oh, after our house was on fire,
Sorry?
our house was on fire on Christmas. Like I just literally saved our house from burning down. Our
When
house was
was
on
this?
fire, like at the beginning of the year,
Which
Christmas,
year?
like last year.
This year.
Yeah, I guess like last.
This house in Canada nearly burnt down.
Yeah,
Because of?
an electrical fire. So just
Why do you
before,
have such a smack ass huge grin on your face?
because it's just crazy. Like my life
It's
has been,
crazy.
yeah, my life has been a roller coaster of late. Um, and
So what happened?
well, there was we were finishing up our supper and basically could smell smoke. And
Yeah.
my wife opened up the door to the basement and it was bellowing with smoke.
Wow.
That's my studio.
Oh, wow.
I like have all my art equipment and everything. I've got a studio as well, like a different studio, but I mean the basement is kind of like my domain. And then so that
It's the
was on
archives.
that was on fire. So it was I just smiled.
Wow.
I just smiled because like a few years prior, I lost like so much work because of a flood. So I'm used to things going horribly wrong, and I literally had to put the fire out before the firemen got there. Otherwise, our house would have burnt down.
Yeah.
So like I had to bust the window open, shoveled in snow, and I had a red Ninja Turtles like Christmas ugly jersey on. So I was like,
Oh, hilarious.
it was quite a spectacle. Quite a
Yeah,
spectacle.
but you're an artist, right? So artists,
I'm allowed.
what you artists exactly, and also going back to what you just said, like it you lost it all, and then you lost it all in the floods.
Yeah.
Artists create. So I think it's interesting actually. It's a nice idea. Like, what do you think would scare you more? Losing everything like you now have twice, or having too much that, do you know what I mean? Or having so many paintings that you almost,
Drowning in them.
yeah. I don't
Uh,
even think it's a no-brainer.
well, I think this is what has made life so profound for me at the moment is that I've had so much loss. I've lost so much people due to COVID. My dad died. I've lost my
Oh,
dad.
sorry. Recently now.
Recently, I've lost grandmother. I've lost like best friends. I've lost more people than it's just crazy. I've lost so much people, and the loss, like just loss, consistent loss, like just has been crazy. So even this year, like the house, all of these things, it's like I'm appreciating life a lot more. I am My own mortality is in full view. Like, I mean, I just think about, myself now. I think about all the people that I've lost and all of these things. So I'm in a very, very interesting place right now, like where I'm dealing with so much emotional kind of variations, like on a daily basis. Like, and even my relationship with my wife has been tested. We separated it now, as well now for a month.
Now,
Yeah,
as
currently,
we speak.
as we
Oh,
speak.
jeez, Lindsay.
Yeah, no, and I'm my art teacher had a dream about me a few months back that I was a phoenix, and it was profound. And this was just after the house burned down, like almost burned down. So that was amazing. That like my art teacher had,
The bird.
yeah, she had like this dream about me as a phoenix, and she didn't know that the house was on fire or anything like that. So that was a catalyst for me. That was a catalyst because I was going through quite a bit of emotional struggle, and everything was battling, like bottling up inside. And I think I was like a pressure point. I reached a pressure point in terms of everything, and yeah, this was just explosive. And so yeah, I've been going through like a fair amount of life.
Yeah,
But I mean, for me, like I said, those kind of things, it influences the way that I create.
sure.
So I'm always open to like things going somewhat bad, because there's always some sort of lesson that I can extract from it. I just don't know it immediately, and um, I always end up learning lessons from these tough moments. So I'm trying to just smile, even though I cry.
Tell me something when you lost your dad, because you just said lots and lots of people.
Hmm.
Um, was your dad the closest person to you that you lost now recently or in your life so far?
Yeah, like I think it's my dad does, he never said he loved me, but he would always show me that he loved me, and that was something that I appreciated about my dad. He would always, he was tough with me, but he was tough for a reason. He knew what he was trying to do, and like I didn't know what he was trying to do because he never explained anything. So my dad was like a little bit of a mystery like that for me, and um, but I never got to have transparency, and he never got to like enjoy who I am right now. And so it's sad that he missed out even on my kids, and then just also the way I am and who I am as a person.
Wow.
Um, because I've been here for 10 years, and like um, that was the hardest thing because I'm like everyone loves us, So like leaving South Africa was hard for a lot of people, and it was hard for my dad and my mom, um, because like I said, I love people. I love people, and I like being there for people. But um, I couldn't be there for anyone when I was in Cape Town. I learned how to appreciate people. I learned to appreciate South Africa and my surroundings, etc.
Mm,
Once I was removed from it, and then I
mm,
gained some sort of traction in my mind as to like how important these things actually are. Um,
yeah.
so yeah, I do miss him, but it's taught me to appreciate life. And so as much as he's away right now, like I'm choosing to embrace life to the fullest in order to honor his spirit,
Yeah.
because his energy and his life obviously echoes through me. So for me, it's just um, how do I present my absolute best to the world at the moment,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
as a kind of honoring his just everything that he tried to like instill and put within me.
Mm.
So yeah, a lot of
And
lessons.
tell me, you because I mean, you're an artist already, but I'm just curious, because often when we faced with such a death of someone important to us, we have these epiphanies, right? And did you did you have an epiphany at all in the sense of like what life means and how the distinction between living and dying, and how one minute you're here, the next minute you're gone, and then it's kind of like, well, what's left? And then did you ever have an association with I need to create more because when I die, that's what will be left. And ironically, you just lost everything, and then you lost everything in the flood. So, nothing is permanent. But I'm just curious if it did make you want to create more, because that's what you can leave behind, is something you have created.
And that is the mission that I'm on. Like that is exactly where I'm going. It's the time.
Mm,
I mean, that's my mission right now, is to just my own mortality is in full view. Like that for me is the thing that a lot of my work has always been dealing with death, and I've tried to commit suicide 3 times in my life.
seriously.
Yeah.
Wow.
So like I have like deep depression struggles, like deep,
Mm,
bad. And so like right now, having lost everything, I don't know. I have it's the first time I feel like a great sense of purpose, you know, and also realizing now that I have a limited amount of time on this earth, and I've got to use it wisely, and every second counts, and that's why I have this new renewed energy within myself to just create and do more and do things at the level that I know I'm capable of, because I'm capable of doing like outstanding stuff. It's just that I think I've always been afraid of that, of leaning into success, because
yeah.
always liked being the guy in the shadows. Like I
Mm,
really like functioning in the shadows, like with no limelight on me. I don't like that. Like I love just kind of functioning without that pressure,
yeah.
outside opinions. But now I'm at a point now where I really don't give a shit about like outside opinions. I'm more about my time on Earth, my legacy, and also just like what am I gonna leave my kids? Like I care about my kids more than anything else right now. And even when it came down to like me having a renewed sense of self, um,
Mm,
my daughter gave that to me, and
yeah.
I love her for that, because like I mean I had no appreciation for life or beauty, in anything on this earth. So like now, just seeing her and seeing my son, it's really just kind of reignited my desire to just even present myself even more, in
Yeah.
the kind of way that I want. Um, and then the coupling with loss and all these struggles, and then being separated from somebody who I know for 18 years.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's crazy. It's crazy. So
So tell me, where you talk about the self-loathing earlier, and obviously
mm.
now you mention, that you've tried to take your own life 3 times. Like, where does that come from? To loathe yourself so much, again, when you had so much love.
Oh, that's the thing. Like, I mean, you don't have conversation. Like, then you're gonna build certain distinctions for yourself.
Okay.
Like, and that's the whole thing about me and the exposure to this and to that. Like, you don't have a community that understands how to even deal with any sort of mental issues, any sort of kind of psychological dilemmas that you might have. The community isn't geared towards dealing with it. So like you have a lot of that just kind of suck it up and just kind of deal with it and just you know keep trudging on. So
Mm.
um, and then you have being a male as well, pride. You have all of this ego and communication and being transparent is not at the it's not at the core of how we
Mm.
do things.
Mm.
So
Or vulnerability,
yeah,
open
just being
vulnerability.
vulnerability. Like I mean, that's why I even use my platform to be like super vulnerable
Yeah.
because I want people to see that you can be kind of like
Real.
open and real. Like I mean, yeah, like I mean, just because I'm a guy doesn't mean that I'm you know um, that I don't have feelings and I don't have I
I
don't cry.
want to say something stupid. I want to say just because. No, it's like
Say it.
just because it's like just because I'm a girl doesn't mean my shit don't stink. It's like just because I'm a guy doesn't mean I don't cry. It's like that like stereotype that we're grown up with.
No, it's crazy. And those stereotypes are like they inform us, and it's those kind of we don't really question any of the stereotypes, and it's those kind of things creates a lot of pressure. Um,
Mm.
so for me, like even the self-loathing, it comes from this desire to please. Like I had this desire to please, and I didn't have any capabilities with dealing with failure. So it was like
Mm.
the desire to always get that dopamine hit, to get the
Mm.
pat in the back, to get the okay, this is looking great. Um, you know, always that was me. That was how I felt like I was achieving when I got the little pat in the back and the like, oh,
Yeah.
that's looking amazing, etc., etc. And this was from a young age. Um, so then,
Even though you were the glory boy who always was the one who could do something distinctly different and
yeah,
and good.
yeah, but I never had any sort of ability to see my own worth, which was crazy. And I never had, I had my mom who loved me and all these kind of things, but there's a type of communication that you need to have to dismantle a mindset. You have to dismantle it. And even with my
Explain that to
daughter,
me.
like even
Explain,
with
what do
my
you mean
daughter,
by dismantle a mindset?
there's certain mannerisms that I can see. It's just I can see the frustration. I can see that she's got her own emotional content that she's working through.
Mm.
And so, like for me, if you don't have your finger on the pulse, you're not that, observant, you'll miss all of those things. You miss all
Yeah.
of the little signs. So like for me, I have such a deep relationship with my daughter, for example, that we don't skip those kind of beats. Like
Beautiful.
we call it out and we have conversations about them because like even tears and crying and things like that before, like I mean, you just treat tears and crying as like a frustration, like please, you're irritating me, or it bugs you and your energy. Whereas for me now, it's like I try and really give them my time and try to understand them and listen to them and like really treat them as little human beings,
Mm.
that have thoughts about things. Um, so we have conversations and try to unpack and dismantle those little things that she would
Beautiful.
have maybe have gauged from some other kid, like even a tantrum. I've seen her, you know, come home with a different set of tantrums where she would end up saying, I hate myself, you know? And
Mm.
those kind of things, like if you don't check that, if you don't have any sort of dialogue around, that kid doesn't understand um, fully what it means to say, I hate myself. If
Mm.
you allow that kid to just kind of have this as, that outlet, that is going to fester and metastasize to a point like where you get to me. You get to my level where it's just like you kind of just go to destruction level because you haven't dismantled any of this. So like now
Mm.
My daughter apologizes. She has a tantrum. She knows when she's stepping out of line. Um, all we need to do is just we spend a few minutes talking about it. She apologizes. I apologize to her if I maybe came across as aggressive to her. We have this kind of amicable, but like trying to understand each other. And
Mm.
for me, is that kind of even stoicism and just having my like I try to live a stoic life. So like it's just accepting the good and the bad,
Yeah.
accepting that people are capable of bad, people are capable of messing up, and
Is
so
that what that means? A stoic life? To
I don't know,
accept
like
the
for me,
good?
it's just making peace. Like we all have this romantic idea about life, right? Like I mean, you kind of everything is fed by this romantic expectations that you just
Mm.
things are gonna work out, right? And you wake up and it's like, oh, yay, the day's gonna work out.
Yeah, yeah.
And when it doesn't, then you kind of like hit hard with this disappointment. Whereas
Mm.
the way that I wake up right now is like I wake up knowing that people are gonna be good and shitty. And
Yeah.
whatever is going to come my way, I'm going to be ready for it. Because I'm not just allowing my only good to come in. I'm allowing the potential of knowing that reality is built on this. People aren't going to just be good. And people aren't just going to be what I want them to be. People are going to be doing what they do, which
Yeah.
is their own thing, right? And so, like, for me, I'm just ready for the reality of people. And that's why, I mean, this is like my own coping mechanism right now, just to be able to deal with the irregular shifts that people are like, you speak to somebody now and the next minute they, completely in a funk because life is really just going crazy at the moment.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so I really try not to be as romantic about things, even with love. Like, I mean, you have romantic ideas about how love is going to unfold, but, it takes a lot of effort to make something beautiful. Um, but it doesn't just not it's not just like this movie fairy tale kind of thing that just
Mm.
happens. So for me,
No, that unfolding is over a period of time, and it includes a lot of the funks that you talk about, and
exactly.
it's about being able to withstand. Look, it's a controversial conversation, right? But I think, hearing what you say in that breath, for me, I guess I just have this vision in the same way, and I kind of want to ask you what that meant earlier, where you talk about, master, like really just wanting to like be the best you right now by
Yeah,
40, you said. But
yeah,
so for me, just in terms of closing off on what you say about relationships, I think for me, I just sort of hold on to this vision of a granny and a grandpa, right, which happens to be then me and my husband, and we're kind of just doing a little dance in a villa in Italy,
oh,
and
beautiful,
it's late at night and they're candles. And so
beautiful.
that's sort of the vision that I kind of hold in my head. And so whatever happens between now and then happens, and well, let's see if we get to that vision. You know what I mean? But
That's
that's sort
beautiful.
of what I would like to
That is
achieve, you
beautiful.
know?
That's great, and you have to have those kind of things, like and like that for me is the interesting thing. I don't have those kind of images. Like I don't because I've just absorbed so much irregular things happening that I can't even fixate on something beautiful for myself. So like this has been the first time that I've actually asked myself certain questions like what do I really want?
Mm,
What do I really want? For
mm,
that future, and what do I really want to see myself? Where do I want to see myself? So even that like idea of personal greatness, it used to be something before. It used to be wrapped up in a certain amount of like, you know, you want to have the accolades, you want this, you want that,
the
you want
ego.
the ego. Everything was fed by like ego driven kind of like need. Um, so that's why I'm in this weird, having lost so much, and then I'm just in that kind of greatness for me is just I need to just live my truth. I just need to be comfortable with myself, and I just need to be able to inspire at the rate that I want to, which
Mm,
is I need to be doing so much more stuff, and so that's why like I mean even I've done the work of being I've checked myself before trying to get out there and trying to help and heal the world, like, and that was always my objective for myself was to really deal with some of the hardship that I went through and to like kind of not even hardship, just to like kind of sift through it and work through it and then get to a point where I have some sort of level of understanding that I can kind of impart to somebody else, and maybe use it as a way to just help push the needle of pro a little bit further forward.
But you're helping then, because I mean you've moved to like Canada, which is like, I mean, how much further could you move from South Africa, right? I mean, let's face it. So what kind of helping do you want to do? Is it more on a sort of energetic level then, as opposed to the face-to-face?
No, it's face-to-face. Like, it's face-to-face. And that's why I would have been in Cape Town. I would have been there, like, right now, if it wasn't for all of these restrictions and all of these things. Because for me,
Doing what?
I've got to do workshops. I've got to have a show. I've got to do, like, the whole spectrum. I really got to do the whole thing. Like, usually when I come down, I go all in. So like I'll have a show, and then I'll have workshops planned with high school, with kids, and with adults, and like I mean even like I mean I meet up. I do a lot of work with people that come from like under gangs, people that are ex-convicts, people that are that need art as an outlet, people that are just trying to.
Why ex-convicts? Why not? So do they have to be ex-convicts?
No. Like for me, it's just people that are in like tumultuous situations in life. Like even the group, they were all trying to get they're obviously getting their education. So all people that didn't have an education. So the college offers these kind of classes for anyone who's willing to obviously advance themselves. So a lot of people that are in these classes, you can see the hardship of that they've been exposed to, and it's like the teachers even tell me that nobody's going to listen to what I have to say. That's the heads up before going into a lesson. Is that nobody's going to even pay attention to you. So I hope you're ready for that. But like for me, it's just I see a lot of these people the same way that I see myself, and the way that I see people growing up and that's the power of like having that kind of having that as something that's in my portfolio, my background,
It doesn't threaten you either. That's the thing, right?
Yeah. So I go into those situations and I just do what I have to do, and I say what I have to say, and whether it resonates or not, it's like, hey, I'm just doing my best here. And usually, like, I've had so much people telling me afterwards, I've had emails and saying that they've never had such a good response before, etc., etc. But it's because you gotta be organic in that process also of delivering information and like trying to teach people, even teaching kids. You gotta be organic. You can't just like have a set plan and go and execute this way. It's like you got to look at the individuals, and you got to see that this person needs a little bit more of that, and this individual needs a little bit more of a different take. So you got to, for me, and I love that. I love reading people's energies. I like seeing where people are. Who's enthusiastic and who's not. Who needs a little bit more pushing. Who needs just guidance. So like I mean, I love that kind of thing. So that's why like my physical presence is also an energy that I work with. So
do you have an agent that helps you with this, or do you like, is it completely you wake up and you think, you know what, I want to go talk to schools, and then you call the school yourself and you say, listen, I'm an artist, I come from this crazy contrasting background. I've literally, I've brought myself to where I am today, and I'd love to share my story. Is that sort of how it goes, or how do you get to being in front of these people?
73,000 followers. That's how you get there.
Yeah. It's funny, right? So I mean,
don't
that's
have
the
to do
thing.
much. Like people just like come to you, and like people just kind of people approach you, and people have kind of. They take their opportunities and they ask you to do things. So like I get asked to do a lot of things, but for me it has to resonate. Like I don't do things where you are gonna personally benefit. Like I don't do things like that. I don't help out buddies, for design a logo for me, or design this, or do this and do stuff like that. I don't do that kind of thing. Like for me, I help out initiatives. I help out causes. I help out like things that are where I feel strongly for the initiative, etc., etc. So, like, I mean, usually, if if it's driven by kids, the kids are at the core of the thing, I'll just say yes. Um,
Yeah.
Hey, do you want to do a talk? Talk, yes. Do you want to, paint at a golfing tournament? No.
Yeah.
Not that much, not that much, because that's not my audience, and I know I'm not. Yeah, I might maybe resonate with one or two people, but for me, it's just no. I need to like help people, like help equip them with a certain amount of skill set, and like also like for me, it's like if most people know that I come from Mitchell's Plain. So even if I do like an IG and I do a live, and I'll have people like jumping in from South Africa, from these communities, asking me questions. How did you do this? How do you get into this thing and that thing? So for me, it's like they see a guy like me, they identify with me, and then they ask me all the questions. They get the answers,
Mm.
but then they're also seeing he's in an international space, doing international things, doing this and that. It's like
Mm.
people they see the possibilities they
Mm.
see, and then I show my vulnerabilities, then it's like, but this guy's so fucking like emotional all the time and all of these things. It's like, how is he getting all of these things done? So I'm trying to give people a realistic impression of what it is that I'm about, but at the same time I'm just, I don't know,
Trying to be me,
I'm just
trying to be
trying to be
you.
me. I'm just trying to be me. That's it. And I just
Mm.
understand how important art is. And that's why, like me, technically, I have styles that people can look at. Somebody who's a non-artistic, who has a non-artistic eye, who doesn't know
Mm.
anything about art, and that person, I know I can grab that person because of the aesthetic and just the way that I create. Um, so like, I mean, I can be graphic, I can be very, you know expressionistic. My oil paintings
Mm.
are very different to my drawings
Mm.
and my illustrations. So I can pull in so many different people from different spheres. And so
So you say I can pull all these people in, and I'm seeing you move your hands, and you're really pulling people in. And
mm,
so once you've pulled them in, what do you want to do? What do you want to achieve?
make them think about their own life. Like for me, it's like I want them to think about their own life,
Mm.
because when else do you think about your own life? You
And
don't.
to think about their own life with what outcome?
With what outcome? Like even with just like, like that's why I deal with fantasy. Like I like to push ideas into, like, I like pushing things that aren't possible, because I want people to kind of view things like dream big. Like I want people
Okay.
to dream
Yeah.
big, dream outlandish.
So you want to inspire people to also connect with their truth.
That is exactly it. And so that's why, like, even the eyes, like for me, eyes is a common thread in my work, because I am driven by eyes. I go up to people and I'm like, I'll go and have a conversation because I can see somebody's, had a rough day. And I can see it on their eyes, and I'll call them out. I can see the pain in your eyes. And for me, over the years, eyes have been, they're the windows of the soul. And so, like,
Mm.
that being said, they really are. And for me, being an observer, and then also having the technical ability to, like, pull off certain styles and all these things. So a lot of my work, it has a lot of that eyes, people thinking deeply, a lot of introspection, but then it's also, mashed up with some crazy visuals and destruction and like cool things happening, and
Chaos. Chaos.
chaos, like, but it's this organized chaos, and like,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
and I think people just kind of, there's something in that organized chaos that is beautiful,
Mm.
and that's how I just need people to have, even when I do murals, like, it's very important that the murals or the things that I do, it's immersive and it actually sucks you in. So the
Mm.
eyes function as this tool for me. So like a lot of what I do is like, I have the central figure, which is, harnessed so much emotion, and then this outside kind of craziness happening, filtering in. But it's what happens is that I can pull in that person with no art interest just by having that thing with the eyes, just they
Mm.
see something within themselves, that they don't quite know, and it makes them feel uneasy about certain emotional content
Mm.
within
Mm.
themselves, and people are going through ups and downs, so it's like
Yeah.
that's why I'm very cognitive of that kind of thing. So like even my work, it tries to. I'm not devious about, you know, wanting to extract that. I just want you to have a moment where you don't just walk by something, spend a glance. And I mean, you look at people at galleries, you look at people that observe art, they don't really drink it in. They don't really look at it and they don't really understand, because usually it's like you have to read the little description of it first before you can actually have some sort of emotional response to it. Whereas with me, you don't have to read anything. You just look at it and chances are you can feel something. And that's how I want all of my, everyone to feel that. And it's not even, I don't even control the narrative. I don't like to even explain what this thing is trying to convey, because
Yeah.
always amazing to see what people extract from it, for themselves. And so, like, I mean, that's the exciting thing for me, is like creating work that gets people to have this inner dialogue with themselves, but then also it inspires a lot of people as well to like want to create like that, to want to express themselves. And I've seen so many people on Instagram who, a few years ago weren't maybe that hot, but like now, because of seeing people like myself, leaning into this, doing this kind of style, mashing up, throwing in watercolors with oils, with, pencil, with charcoal, and everything's all in one canvas, that's, I don't come from art school, so I'm not too precious about like, not mixing.
The rules. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't like, I make my own rules. And so like people need to see that. People love when it gives you like you give them the invitation to go and do the same,
Yeah.
with their life. So kind of, that's where my heart is, when that's what I'm driven by. And I
So
like.
talk to me
Yeah.
about the transition then from when you left home to when you really would have labeled or called yourself an artist to when you actually sold your first piece of work. Why are you putting your hands
Oh
over your face? Let me see. Eyes, please. Let me see the eyes.
my god. Oh my goodness. Like that was the whole thing. Like I mean, I was just a sponge. I met Ree when I met Ree, for example. I just prior to that, me and a friend, we had started this thing called, I was going by the name Bison. So I was creating a lot of work under this alias Bison, because I wasn't okay with my name. I wasn't okay with my story. I wasn't okay with anything to do with me. So I had this alias that I was like creating under. And then when I met Ree, and you know, just by chance, she was like somebody I revered, sent my work to her, and then got my work seen by her, and then all of a sudden I'm working there. I was like, what? Because I worked there, I was exposed to different people, and the
So
people
where
I
did you work? I mean, I don't know. Where did you, as I
used to
say,
work
no
at.
one's allowed to tell me anything about anybody. Like I've got to find it out from you.
Okay, so like I used to work for this digital media agency. We used to do. I was the guy that would design all of the Nelson Mandela Foundation stuff, and I used to design all of Desmond Tutu's. We were the brand strategists for him. Um, so like I mean, I was doing a lot of government work, and I was the guy that would like put together exhibitions. We'd be the guys that would like design for Parliament, the opening of Parliament, and etc. etc. So it's like that was what I was doing straight out of varsity, like straight out of college. That's what I
But how
started.
did you get that? How did you suddenly get
My
that?
life is I basically walked out of a job. I started this job in Cape Town. I started day one, at
What was the
this
job?
graphic design. It was a graphic design job, and it was basically designing pamphlets for grocery stores. And I literally went and started work for one day and ended that very day. I was like, fuck this. I'm not spending my life. I'm not spending my life doing this. I'm gonna die. Like I'm gonna die of misery. And I could see
Yeah.
everyone in the room. This was day one, and I quit like immediately. And that very day, I walked down the street and bumped into a friend. And then this guy was like, "Hey, we're looking for a designer."
No way. That day.
That day, it's crazy. Like I mean, I do a lot of stuff like that. Like I mean, chance. Like, but I mean, that's the thing I honor. Like another person would sit down there and take the job, and like, well, this is I'm just gonna, I need the money and I need this. Like with me,
Mm.
I'm like, I'm not gonna sell my soul for this shit. Like I
Yeah.
can't do it. I can't do it. Like cannot. I'm not. I know my worth. All of these things, and so like I end up quitting, but then I end up getting an amazing job just like that. And
Yeah.
I worked in Joburg. I was everywhere. Like it's just like doing all these cool projects. But then after that, I ended up getting a job at Mediclinic.
Mm-hmm.
And then I worked there for a year because I got fired from this other place,
Why?
because I was designing on the side
For
and
other people,
for other
privately.
people, yeah,
Mm.
and they didn't quite like that. So, but they loved me. So it was just like it was a crazy, crazy thing. They had to get rid of me, but I think they were more hurt by the fact that I was just kind of trying to earn some more money, um,
Yeah. Yeah.
and they felt like,
Restraint of trade, that sort of
yeah,
thing.
like it's crazy, but like
Mm.
I adhered to the whole thing, but then I ended up going to Mediclinic and had a very comfortable job, finished at 4, earned
Doing what?
graphic design for Mediclinic,
Oh,
but
okay.
that in itself was like we were the department that basically catered for every type of branding that would need to be done. But
Mm.
even there, we're gonna work there. That's when I started Bison. That's when me and my friend, I told
Okay.
myself 1 year. I told myself I'm gonna work here for 1 year, and then after this, I don't know what's gonna happen, but I'm leaving.
Yeah.
And in that
That
year,
was to pay the bills.
that was to pay the bills, but also like to give me time. Like I wanted time, I needed time, and
Mm.
so
Mm. You needed to process what's my
yeah,
plan?
and
Yeah.
so I would work. Everyone would leave at 4. I would continue working on my own stuff until like late at night at Mediclinic,
Mm.
and it was just like I was teaching myself stuff and learning this. So the design that I was doing was trying to break rules. So like me and my friend Daniel, like when we ended up doing this Bison thing, we were in magazines, design magazines in Japan. We were in the UK computer arts magazines, like everything that we were doing amazing stuff because we were breaking rules. We were just like, screw everyone, screw all of these kind of like school of thoughts. We're just gonna completely walk and tread over everything. So
Mm.
like I made a bit of a name for myself, being a rebel under Bison. But
Yeah.
I'm a good kid. I'm a good guy. I'm like all of these things. I was like this
You
ego,
say with a huge smile on your face.
alter
Yeah.
ego rebel, just kind of like living out whatever through Bison. But yeah, it was just like very interesting times. Very very interesting times.
So what can I so just so that it was graphic design also with Bison, or was it
Yeah.
all
It,
what?
it was graphic
Yeah.
design, it was art, it was deconstructing, it was like trying to take typography. Like my friend was more typography, and we were just basically what I do with my kids basically is I give them my drawings and then allow their freedom to take over.
Okay.
So there's a lot of destruction, right? And so
Mm.
from that destruction, how do we rebuild? So my friend is very much his aesthetic is different to mine. So when I give him an illustration, for example, I don't know what he's going to end up doing with it. I don't know what he's going to end up, how he's going to take it apart, etc. So we learn to trust each other in different ways and to,
Mm.
surrender ourselves over to um, the unexpected or to the unknown.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like we learned a lot, and that was good for us to be able to do those kind of things. But yeah, it was interesting. Um,
And was it art for art, like art for art's sake, being on a wall, or was it for what was it for? What was the
art for us.
end?
It was art
Hmm?
for us. Like it was purely art for us. Like that was the whole thing. Like we were hungry to express ourselves. Like I was working. Like I said, I was working and doing a lot of corporate stuff. But
Mm.
then I'm like, I have a strong desire to be an illustrator, to be an artist, to be,
Mm.
and I always wanted to go and study art, but like we couldn't afford it, and so like graphic design was the next best thing. So like that's why I did graphic design, was because it was
Yeah.
a viable way of making, you know,
A
ends meet.
step.
Yeah, but
Mm.
also to be creative and to express myself, and
Yeah. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it was very uninformed. Like I had no idea what graphic design entailed. Because that's the level of, you can't go to that one cousin or aunt or somebody or uncle who has some sort of idea what a graphic designer is. So like I just literally fell into being a graphic designer because I heard it from somebody,
Yeah.
and It's like, what are you going to study? Well, I guess I'm going to be doing design.
Yeah.
And then I was
Yeah.
actually good at it. But then I ended up doing all of these corporate things, which I knew was killing my soul. And then that's when I met Ree. Like when I was doing Bison, I just sent stuff to her to get approval that I'm not a fuck up, as in
So
terms of
how did you know her though? Because I mean, I know Cape Town's small actually. So, but how
anything.
did you know of her or?
I saw their work. I saw the tale of how, and it was so
Oh,
crazy.
okay.
When I worked at, it was so crazy. This is like I manifested it for myself. Like I manifest a hell of a lot of things. Yanis came to do a pitch at the old company RX that I used to work at. And when Yanis came, they were looking for somebody to do video edits. And then Yanis came and he was presenting their company, and they ended up playing the tale of how.
Wow.
Changed my goddamn life because it's like after I saw that, I was like, that's what I want to
Well,
do.
explain the tale of how to
So
of
the tale
people
of how,
listening,
like,
because
yeah, the tale of how is like a collaborative effort between Ree and Yanis, Ree Trewick, Yanis, and Marcus Wormstorm. And I think um, this was like a passion project for them. They were just kind of editing, cutting, images that Ree was drawing, and putting it into this really fantastical story, and also dark subject matter, a very dramatic orchestral, back the soundtrack. So it's very like cinematic, crazy, but very illustrative, which was it's new. Like I mean, that was new for me to see something like that back then, and it changed my life. Like I mean, when I saw that, I was doing very corporate kind of things, and I saw that my thinking just shot
exploded.
into the stratosphere. Like I mean, it was crazy. And then that's what put them on the radar for me. But it was crazy by chance. Like I mean, so when I saw that, that was years ago. So I knew about them just because of that. And then I only sent a mail because I'd seen her email address. I'd seen a whole write up about her, a whole thing. I literally just like tracked her down, and I wanted to send my work to her just to, like I said, get approval that I'm, am I I just needed somebody that I knew was an artist. I didn't know much
Yeah.
artists back then. I didn't know people that were credible that I could just ask for their advice and like, is my work okay? Um,
That's so cool though that you did that. That's it's gutsy to do, because it's all very well telling the story now, because you're a proven artist now and you've got an audience, and
yeah,
but back then, to when
it's
you're
crazy.
vulnerable and you haven't even put a stamp on the map, and you don't know if you suck or not or
I
what,
know.
and you send it into someone you admire and you say, listen, what do you think? It's
And it was a crazy experience because like even then I got the opportunity to just come and help them out on a project. And then I sat there and was like, I know nothing about this world. I never studied for it. I never studied animation. I never knew anything to do with film. Nothing. Then I found out I'm gonna end up working with these guys. We just clicked. I was very quiet, just sat there, just drawing. I would sing and enjoy it. I think she just enjoyed the fact that I was like somebody she could sit quietly with and just draw, and we would kill so much time. Like, and then we'd
yeah.
talk a little bit. She'll give me all her stories and stuff, and I just like absorb it and carry on drawing. Um, so like we just became like this little bubble. We would go and sit and draw everywhere and do stuff like that. But because of her, I owe her greatly. Like I mean, she means the world to me because. Um, it's just the way that she sees the world. I needed to see somebody like her. I needed to see somebody that sees the world like her, that processes stories like her. Um, and for me, that has really informed my decision making in terms of even an artist right now. Like, I mean, even less is more, like that kind of thing was always pounded home. But then I met Ree, and then Ree's like, no ways. Like, I'm all in. It's all
Oh
in
yeah, no, she's
detail and
like, there's no
ornate.
space left.
Yeah, there's no space. There's just
There's-
crazy details to the
yeah.
rosters, like, and it's crazy. And for me, that was to see somebody very just like that was she loved that, and that was who she was, and it was unwavering. I needed that, and so that was the catalyst. That was one of the most
Wow.
essential things that I needed to happen in my life as an artist, was just to feed my imaginative potential.
Or to
But then
give you creative freedom, right?
yeah, and it's just like you don't like that freedom. It's also you don't know how to express freedom. You don't know how that looks or how that feels. It's the same thing with like emotions. Like I didn't know how to adequately express emotions before. So I say a lot of my like earlier work, like when I was when I was working at Oryx and when I was working at Mediclinic, you look at the drawings and a lot of it has blood in it, to try and express pain. And so there was this misconception of like even skulls and stuff like that, to deal with, to drive home the concept of death, and like to talk about this kind of things, very just kind of standard ways. Oh, blood, pain, all this kind of thing. But there wasn't really a deeper understanding of how to express pain. It's like now I have a very good idea of how to do that kind of thing. But when it came to fantasy and like just seeing things differently, Salvador Dali's work was like profound for me. But then Ree's work was to see that and to know how much he read, to know how much that kind of informed his decision making, see how much planning goes into, an idea, to see how much love and affection, you have to have for a character, to have to like, to figure the character out and to have this kind of, to almost imagine it like it's in front of you, you know. It's that kind of thing that switched me on to like a different way of thinking, which I, to this day, as like I've used that as an essential kind of tool for myself, and that's why like people like her are instrumental in my growth, because I took what she did and just obviously went in a different direction with it.
Yeah. Yeah, you put your own signature on it, but it was the freedom that you saw within.
Yes.
So, I mean, I'll just quickly say something here. So, guys listening, I interviewed Ree in the first season, so you're welcome to go listen to her interview, because now we've spoken quite a bit about her, and Linsey's mentioned so much about her, so that's why I'm mentioning it now. Just listen to her interview; it's phenomenal, because you talk about the tale of how that, it was a passion project, and it started as a passion project. And the reason why I'm bringing this up now, in conjunction with freedom that you talk about, what was so beautiful about her story, and what I'm trying to do with the show also, is connecting people with truth, right? And what's so beautiful about the way Ree lives her life is she just is, she's an expression. She's like an extension of herself. Everything she touches and does and is an extension of who she is. And it's not that she's working, it's that she's the message she gave was that she's constantly developing or creating something. And it's not for work, it's just she's constantly, it was the most inspirational thing to hear, is that she's just constantly creating. Always.
Always.
And then if it develops into like what you ended up seeing, which is so beautiful to hear now in sort of a comeback, a 360, is that was just a passion project of hers that turned to be so successful, which is what got you guys to meet, and now is how we talking,
Yeah, and that's the beauty of it, because that's the way that I see it, and that's why she's revered, and I always, give her flowers, like while she's alive, because she's very instrumental in just the way that I think, and that's why, like, I mean, I will always put her on a pedestal, because of that's all you need to do with some people is just ignite that curiosity and that way of thinking, and then you have somebody like her, like, lives her truth, and it's like it feels like she's a living fantasy, and everything that happens to her is kind of fantastical and crazy and weird. So like for me, I've tried to surround myself with people like that, surround myself with interesting people that kind of feed my soul, that give me something to think about, and
Yeah.
it's like I'm very grateful that I've had that kind of people playing a role in my life, but yeah, like, she's very important, very, very important.
So tell us then, okay, just sort of point form, right?
Mhm.
So you then did that project with her, right? You
Yeah.
worked there, you sang along in the office, and you sort of worked in your own little quiet bubble. And then what happened, point form, to how you got to Canada now?
Oh my God, yeah. Like I was busy dating. I was dating somebody. We got married. We were doing a long distance relationship while I was working at Shy the Sun with Ree and all the fantastic guys there. So like yeah, like I mean, I the transition was crazy. They met me in like it's like we met and then I was gone. You know, uh,
Wow. So you
like the
met this woman
impact.
in Cape Town. It was
Yeah.
Canadian woman.
No, she's Capetonian. Like we.
Yeah, because you both decided to spread your wings. That's what you said in the beginning. But
Yeah.
then you did the long distance thing. Did she go first?
So she went first for a little bit,
Okay.
only a few months, and but prior to that, like she was also doing her in service in another province as well. So like I mean, we were just doing torturous relationship, long distance thing the whole time. But I mean, I had the luxury of just spending a lot of time working and pouring a lot of love into the work that I was doing with these guys at Shy the Sun. But yeah, like they really got me. That's when my confidence started peaking when I was working there as well, because that was the first time that I also met people, and then I was invited to shows for the first time because I was working there, and I got exposed to the right people, and
Mm.
my name started just people would see my work. People would hear Bison. Who is Bison? And like they'd see my stuff because I came out of nowhere. I literally
Yeah.
came out of nowhere, and um, these people didn't know who I was. I didn't have any friends, nobody. So kind of like
Well,
rhythm.
you had the one friend that you were together with in Bison,
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
and that was just there wasn't any connections or network or anything like that. So
Mm.
even in the community, I didn't know anybody in the community, but there were so much cool things. I was just like I said, I was just a sponge, and I was just open, and I was a pleasant guy to be around. I wasn't very abrasive at all, so just always smiling, and it was okay to have me in the space. So like I would go, I would.
You say that then with a big grin on your face. I still want to know though, how did you? So, I mean, you had this like long distance thing. So then what did you say? Well, listen, this is not working. So we need to kind of make a decision now. Are we going to make this work here and be together, or should we just both migrate?
Yeah, I don't know how I made decisions back then. To be honest with you, I wasn't thinking very clearly much.
Yeah.
Um, but no, like when it came down to the decision making, like I said, my everything was starting to take off for me. I started feeling good about myself, even working for Redem. I started having a lot more pride in what I was doing because it was creatively strong. So I had the confidence to even like tell people I was working on these cool projects and all of these things. So it was just I was starting to get a taste of something that I always wanted, which was just
Mm.
kind of inclusion in an art community, to be thought of.
And
And
to have a sense of belonging, right?
yes, exactly. I mean, you want to be, we tribal, beings.
Mm. This is my gig. This is my community. This
Yeah.
is my tribe. Yeah.
And so, like, I mean, I always wanted that for myself, but I mean, you don't know how. Sometimes some people have it. Some people have that gift of the gab. Some people have that personality that just kind of you want to be around them. And for me, that's why I wasn't exposed to much. So I really had to be a sponge and had to learn quickly, and really had to just take my opportunities. Like even the first show that I had was at this show called the Word of Art.
Mm.
It was this kind of thing that happened in Woodstock. So it was called the Word of Art, and they would always have these kind of gigs where DJs would show up and all of these things. So I just kind of, a friend of mine that I was working on at Shy the Sun with Rhythm, ended up, she was part of the show, and she was like, hey, two of them actually, the guy and the girl, Chris and Eloise, they were like, hey, we're going to the show. We have some stuff in the show. Do you want to join? Like, we're just going to go and put our stuff up. It's happening tomorrow. Uh, and then I go with them and I meet Ricky Lee Gordon, who was also, he was just kind of this mover and shaker back then.
Yeah. In Cape Town. I don't know him. Who's,
Ricky Lee Gordon.
yeah.
He's now in Sri Lanka surfing, painting waves. I mean, he's just an interesting dude. Uh,
Okay.
but so I ended up meeting this guy for the first time, and he's just like, I had my sketchbook with, and I'm just tagging along the shy guy, tagging along with Chris and Eloise. And then he sees me drawing because I was just waiting for them, and he sees me drawing. He's like, dude, that's like pretty cool. Do you have any more? I'm like, no, I don't have any more. He's like, oh, that's a pity because you could have been in the show. So I was like, what? I said, just no, like, I'll have something for you tomorrow. like, he's like, what do you mean? You don't have anything? So I'm like, no, no, no. Like, don't worry. Like, I'll have something for you tomorrow. Okay, all right, cool. So he gave me a shot there. The show was tomorrow. I never slept. I did 5 pieces. I did 5 pieces. A3 pieces. They all sold.
Wow.
They all sold. And they were like,
I mean, was that the first time you sold
that
your
was the
own
first
work
time I
in
did
an
a show.
exhibition?
That was the first time I was in a show. That was the first time I was in a show. That was the first time I had been asked. That was the first. That's why I was like, that was an opportunity that if I did not take that
Wow.
opportunity, it would have. And I mean, another person would have just said, nah, it's tomorrow. Yeah. I was so like crazy. I was like,
So were you still under the name of Bison then?
yeah.
And when did you change your
So
name?
that was when I was going under the name Bison, because then I had left Mediclinic, came to Shy the Sun, and then I had no background in animation. Then Yanis there mentioned to me that I'm on a probation period for like 3 months. You got to prove yourself. I didn't prove myself, and I begged them, give me a month, please give me a month. Like give me a month, like just I don't know. I needed something to just get me into gear, and then all of a sudden something just clicked. Something clicked, and then I
But
was
you
a
say you
machine.
didn't prove yourself.
Yeah, I was a
So you were
machine.
working them on the probation, and then they said, "Okay, cool, probation's up. Thanks for your time."
Yeah, because I mean they were liking what I was doing, but I mean there's a lot that goes into you have to fill other roles as well. You need to, jump in and pitch in here and there. So you have to develop other skills along the line as well. So for me, I was slow to learning those kind of other technical skills because it wasn't my interest. And if it doesn't interest me, it's like I don't have the energy for it. So for me, that was tough to have to put energy into something, to prove something, to like, to keep my stance here, which was a learning curve for me, though. But that was what I needed. I love deadlines, all of these things, but it was just the unfamiliarity. Like I had imposter syndrome. I was like, I don't deserve to be here. Then also when I figured out that these guys are like the cream of the crop in terms of what they're doing, I didn't know this. Like, I mean, I'm just like, by chance,
Yeah.
everyone's like, how did you get the job at Shy the Sun? How did you end up working with these guys? They're amazing. Tell us what the formula is. I'm like, I just sent my work to read, dude. Like, I didn't do anything
And
crazy.
but that's interesting. That's life, right? Especially, and this is so good for for people to hear who are on a journey of self-discovery and figuring things out, is that we do not realize the luck we're in often, right? You don't realize that. You think that this just happened and I created. Yeah, you take kind of a little bit of self a little pat on the back and say, I created this and I did X, Y, and Z. But often we don't realize still the luck that we're in until
Yeah.
we look back. And so it's so important to constantly, I guess, just have gratitude anyway.
I know.
Even
Like,
if
I mean, I look at and everyone expects me to have this kind of like well thought of plan because it seemed like I had some sort of plan of how I was gonna meet certain kind of expectations for myself. But it's crazy. Like I've had like a lot of good fortune, with things. Like I mean, even that, quitting a job and then getting a job like immediately. It's that kind of thing that's just unheard of. Like everyone is just blown away by that. And then, but even that, leaving Mediclinic, I knew I was gonna leave there after a year. But I didn't know what I was going to leave to. So it's that kind of surrendering myself. I do very well with surrendering myself over to the unknown. And even my work deals with kind of teetering into the unknown most times. So it's like learning to kind of vibe with that and just go with the flow. And losing control. But it's a strange thing. I don't even know. Like, I mean, but things have kind of
well,
panned
it
out
is
for me.
also, I'm also hearing a little contradiction, by the way, with you
Mhm.
in where you say, like, on the one hand, earlier about love, you said,
Mhm.
I don't have that. I can't see those visions. I can't see those visions.
Yeah.
Um, but when it comes to your creative journey, you have that intuition and the
Oh, yeah.
trust in that intuition.
Big time. Big time. It's like
But
an.
with love, you almost, because why can't you just picture a granny and a grandpa sort of
Oh, my.
Linsey 99 dancing with his his lover, you know? Is it that you
Oh
don't want to, or are you afraid that that's going to get in the way of your creative journey, or?
no, I just for me, I need to honor my truth, and I haven't done that. I know I haven't done that, and so like I think that like for me, it's just I get a lot of satisfaction out of being with people, and I haven't been with people. Like I've lived for 10 years out here, just trying to figure life out, trying to figure out different things, and different. Every year has been a different thing to unpack. So now I'm just really I don't have any idea what the future is gonna be like because I like the idea of it being unknown. Like, I mean, I really
Mm,
enjoy the unknown element because I've had so much weirdly good things happen by leaning into that. And
mm,
so, like, even right now, it's just, I don't want to have that clear, defined image,
mm,
because I know that that's what I'm supposed to kind of have is like that's the ideal is to have that kind of image. But like for me, I just don't know what my ideals are anymore because I know I'm shifting so often because I'm really doing a lot of hard work in trying to think differently and also being open and then being exposed to so many people, you you tend to like you change and you change and you change.
mm,
So like I mean I'm weary that like I mean even my idea of greatness, like
mm,
even that has changed because
mm,
I've done so much hard work at looking and defining what that kind of thing is. So like when it comes to love, that's why I'm like I I love deeply and I'm a very passionate person and I really like
mm,
I if I love then I'm gonna love 100%. But I'm very selective about how I do that
mm,
and before I used to just love freely. So like you end up getting hurt like that when
mm.
you just reckless with how you dish it out and how and
Yeah.
I could never like love myself, which was like the profound thing as well. So it's like
Mm,
you're willing to give love, but you can't love yourself. So like I'm trying to do the hard thing, which is like just trying to love myself, and then inadvertently, you know, I will be meeting my own expectation, and then the love will come. Like I would be able to.
mm.
So I don't know what's gonna happen to me in the future in terms of like that, but I am governed by love. Like I have to say that I'm governed solely by love and my love for people, my love for helping. Like
Yeah.
that's the core. That's honestly my core, and it kind of sounds cheesy, but if you know me and you've kind of had a tab on who I am for a while, that's the common thing that I end up always saying is that I just want to do good. And people will ask me, "Well, what does good mean, and what does good look like?" But with me, good is kind of very open. Like good is very very open. I do good on various scales of good. Like just even being an ear, like I phone random people. I phone them early hours in the morning and I have long
Mm.
conversations with people. I phone people on Instagram, random people who I think are leaving breadcrumbs, leaving breadcrumbs for somebody to like help them, find them, you know, and
In what way? What do you mean by that?
because I do the
Is
same thing. I do the same thing with my work. There's certain work that if I post it, certain people can pick up that I'm in a very dark space because I leave breadcrumbs in my work, and so that if you understand the way that I communicate, you can see when I'm in a dark space. You can see when I'm in a light space. You can see when I'm in a
mm,
questioning or this and that. So I have people that check in on me because of certain images that I post because
okay.
they've
Yeah.
tapped into the breadcrumbs. Like because a lot of times you actually are looking for help. You are looking for. You just don't have the balls to just like say it. I need help. Help me, please, because you don't want
Mm.
that. You don't want to look weak. You don't
I
want
don't
to
know if
come
it's
across as
just,
weak.
yeah, I know. I don't, is it just you don't have the balls, or is there something more to it? Is it not also that you're not sure yourself?
You're not sure yourself, and I think it's also just like I mean, you know. You put a lot of expectation that the person's going to give you the right advice, but usually it doesn't come out that way. You end up
Mm.
being more perplexed by it. So, like, I mean, that's scary. So,
Yeah.
like, um,
Tell me, when you did try and take your life,
mhm.
because you talking about this, did you have an angel with you that that got you out of that, or did you decide yourself?
Well, the first time I used to go to the beach, like I used to go to this beach, like a particular spot, and I used to go and like reflect there often. So I was found there, by people. So that was the first time, and that was also just like I lost a whole group of friends, and once again, it was just like kind of immature way of looking at things. But I'd lost a whole bunch of friends, cheated on, um, best friend, girlfriend, everything, the whole thing. Lost a whole bunch of friends in the process. I was just in a journey, like it's a journey in my life. Um, so that was the first kind of thing. But then afterwards, it's like became very macabre. Like I mean, it became very dark, and like for me, it was just kind of like even now. Like I mean, I used to cut myself when I was a kid, um, and I didn't know that that was like a problem. I didn't know that that was an issue because I used to just for me, I needed an outward kind of. I needed pain to be outward. I don't know. I always, even if I
Is it
disappoint.
not also that you were also, I mean, you've mentioned it also a few times, is in terms of with your folks. You
Yeah,
know, it's that communication. You wanting to actually connect and exchange. I'm
yeah,
here. It's like I'm here. Hello, I'm
yeah,
here. Can we talk? Like it's
yeah.
almost that, you know?
And so yeah, you end up doing these. You end up doing things that are questionable, and it's deep down, if you actually like take it apart, you are looking for attention. You're looking for that kind of. You're looking for people to take an interest, but once again, you just don't know how to communicate. You just don't know how to say
Yeah.
things. You don't know how to like ask for the help. And like once again, that having balls to just say stuff. I mean, it's not even doesn't even take that much to ask. It's just like we've been so it's ingrained in us to just not ask and to make the decision for the next person, to like think what the you know kind of just preempt what they're going to say all the time, and you don't give people the opportunity to respond.
Yeah,
So
but
it's like
asking, it's okay to ask, but you also, it needs to be received. Do you know
yeah,
what I'm saying?
yeah.
So who do you ask is the question. And
Exactly. And then what do you receive at the end of the day? Because I mean, I started reaching out and trying to talk, but then the advice was subpar. And so it's just you end up having reservations about how you express and how you speak about certain things because it's risky, because you're putting yourself on the chopping block most times when you're doing this kind of things. So when it comes down to like the breadcrumbs, I think it's that yearning, like we all have this yearning to talk, and that's why even with most of my friends, I don't beat around the bush. Like, I mean, we go straight into the meat and potatoes of the conversation because like I know that you're going through something. I don't just like spend a few minutes talking about the weather and and all those superficial things because like I know that you probably are calling me because you want to talk about some heavy stuff. Let's go for it. Let's
yeah,
dive deep into it and figure it out because I know that that's probably what you want, and that's probably what
yeah.
I want that as well for you, and I want us to have this. So like, so I'm always now I'm an advocate for that kind of like just pushing for conversation, but I mean I haven't had I didn't have before the conversations with the right people. So like I mean I've made a lot of mistakes and I've made a lot of things. Things could have been way better, like for me. But I also like I don't look at things like things could have been better. I mean things are
Exactly. That's like a
like
rabbit hole
good.
that you'll never find yourself getting out of, you know?
Yeah, things are exactly the way that they are, and for me, things are beautiful with the ups and downs, and like I'm processing things, and there's a lot to take in. But life is interesting at the moment. But yeah, like
So you're in Canada now,
mhm.
and so I mean, you kind of grinned and laughed, and you said, you made these weird decisions back then, but you ended up in Canada, and then have you just been an artist in Canada? I mean, what, like you arrive in Canada, and then what?
Well, like
Your
I
wife,
mean,
your wife's a physician, you say, and
the
then
wife's a
or you,
musician, so that obviously gives you like a level of standing in the community as well. You immediately get put on a pedestal, which is crazy. I'm not used to that. I'm not used to being put on a pedestal. I'm used to earning respect. I'm used to like not just getting it like that.
not
And
being
so
given it, but rather, okay, how am I going to
yeah,
sort of ant my way through this,
I'm used to
find my
that.
pedestal?
Yeah, and that was kind of to some degree very alarming for me because like everyone was super nice to us, and like for me, that's you grow up on the streets, like people that are super nice to you, you question them, you know. And I say the streets. I didn't grow up in the streets, but like I mean, that street cred kind of value set of how you think about people. Usually, you'd be threatened by somebody who um, presents as like over friendly, because
Mm.
you tend to think that they have an agenda. So like for
Mm.
me, so then you have that, and you have Canadians with their reputation of being super nice. So it's
Yes.
like me as a South African, I'm like, oh man, this is crazy. This is too much. It's just too much. It's overwhelming. Thank you for the love. Thank you for all the food. Thank you for the cookies. Thank you for everything. But like, too much love, guys. Too much. Uh,
Kill them with kindness.
yeah, I say you this overbearing. Thank you for the kindness, but um, swear at me, smack me, do something
Yeah.
crazy. Give me something unconventional. Yeah, like I want madness. Like that's what I'm more comfortable with. Uh,
Yeah.
so like that for me was like that was a tough pull to deal with, and inadvertently, like my wife also ended up being pressurized, feeling pressured, in a community like that when everyone's just fixated on you, you know, and I'm the artist, and she's the doctor, so like we're in a small town, and people just think the world of you. So
What is the town called? Sorry, because I'm not a fay with all the towns in Canada.
what are the towns called?
What's your town
Oh,
called?
my town. The town is called Melfort.
How do you
Melfort.
spell that?
Melfort.
Yeah.
Melfort.
Oh, Melfort. Okay, cool. Yeah.
I mean, it's yeah, it's like farmers. It's just farming community, like and so for me that like even everyone's like, why are you there? What are you doing with your life? Why? But I'm strange like that. Like for me, I love extracting, you know, interesting things from unusual circumstances. And so like even now I've had so much altercations with animals. Like I've almost died in snowstorms. Um, and I love
What
that.
animals? Bears.
Bears, deer, coyotes, the whole thing. So I wake up very early, so I go for early morning runs because I'm just like I love being the only one awake
Mm.
in the whole place. And so I'm
Mm.
always the crazy guy running early in the morning. Um, but it's a spiritual time for me. It's like that's usually my time, and then usually I have all of these like I run into coyotes, and I'll have a stare down, with a coyote, and for me it's something I never experienced when I was in South Africa, that's for sure. But there's just something having that deep connection to nature,
Mm.
which really resonates with me really well. So I have access to all of that, and um,
Ironically, because South Africa is just known for its nature, but I mean, obviously, Cape Town, you need to get out of Cape Town
yeah,
to
to experience
obviously
it.
the mountain. You can climb the
Yeah,
mountain and come across a couple of dussies and all these things,
yeah,
and then you've got the penguins and the sharks, but you don't really want to
yeah.
come head on with a shark.
Yeah, and it's that kind of thing. Like, there's a misconception, right? Like, I mean, everyone you speak to, people think that that's the life that you lead in in South Africa. Then it's like, no, it's like we're in the city, man. Like, what do you mean?
Mm.
We barely see animals. Like, um, whereas here, it's like you see animals. Like, you have deer in your backyard and all of this kind of thing. So, like for me, that's always majestic. Like, I mean, everyone around here is kind of it's the run of the mill. It's pretty normal kind of stuff. Um, but like I'm still taken aback by being in nature here, and drinking that in for me has been good. That's what I needed. I needed that. I needed to step away from, you know, I'm a sneaker boy, like a city boy. I like to dress a certain way.
Mm.
I don't look like I'm from a farming community right now. Like even though I have my
Yeah.
cowboy boots and all of those things, it's just I don't look like I'm from there, and it's that for me is also educational for everyone else being out here. Like even my accent hasn't changed much since I've been here because um, it's educational for everyone. So like I have to deal with somebody with an accent, and just as much as I've had to adapt. So like now it's like I feel very secure that like yeah, everyone else, you Canadians need to adapt as well. You can learn,
Yeah.
the different nuances of even me as a brown boy from Cape Town, you would never be exposed to somebody like me here in Canada in a farming community, and so it's an opportunity to shine and break stigmas and educate.
And you like to do that.
And I love doing that. So even when
Yeah.
I did this mural in the town, they had never had a mural. They've only had like one mural done before, and it's very like colonial kind of horse and carriage storytelling. So I ended up doing this thing, which I mean, you could probably go and see on my Instagram. Um, but I did this mural in a kind of like dilapidated part in the heart of the town. But I would run past this place, this dilapidated area close next to the post office, and for me, it was just like that's the ideal place for a mural and a community garden. So when I was asked to do a mural, I was like, I know the perfect space. And they literally have turned it into a community garden. Everything I photoshopped into this picture, they have
Wow.
turned it into a space now. But it was, I said, pay me whatever, but I'll do this for 2 weeks. I'll do this for 2 weeks, but I'm going to educate this whole community. And everyone's like, you're crazy. You know, how are you going to do this? You're a one-man show. But I ended up doing this, and I ended up painting. I had old age homes coming. All the schools came. I had people sitting there from the morning till the evening, you know, like, and it was a community thing. People partying there, like, I mean, we had beer tents. People would bring in free food, only for one guy, me. Like all the businesses were chipping in because they'd never seen this. But I knew that this was the opportunity to teach and to like educate a lot of people who are very close-minded about art. Give them an opportunity to like
So what
understand.
did you draw?
So I painted this
Paint?
kind of like even the whole thing, the city that the town that we live in is called the Gateway to the Northern Lights.
Mm-hmm.
So what we see the
Beautiful.
aurora, we see aurora borealis, and it's just like it's beautiful. So the town that we live in is known for that, and so I ended up I ended up making these big eyes and just having this very kind of abstract face, just of brushstrokes, but it
Mm-hmm.
was all the tonal values of the Northern
The
Lights.
Northern Lights. Yeah, beautiful.
And then on either side, I had um, the national plant of Saskatchewan, which is the Western red lily. And then I had on the other side, which was a weed, which was the thistle. So,
Beautiful.
so I had this kind of good and bad once again, like this really, something that
The
was
lily and the thistle,
the lily
yeah.
and the thistle, and it was crazy, like just explaining that to Canadians, like just the symbolism of each one and what it meant. I had so much more older, like individuals over 70, 80s, just loved it because of the thistle, because it reminded them of their childhood. Like it was there was a nostalgic element to it, but the brushstrokes they've never seen artwork like that before. And then there were some who just like who have it's the pride and joy is this lily.
Mm.
And for me, it looks like a strelitzia kind of, it has it's beautiful qualities to it, and it's
Yeah.
very ornate and beautiful. So like people have a lot of pride in it. So I knew that would create an attachment issue, for a lot of people. They have no choice but to be attached to it. So I
Yeah.
did that, but the way that I saw it was the way that I painted it and the way the brushstrokes, etc., was different. So that for me was like when you take somebody through explaining to them this is like,
Mm.
the Northern Lights, etc., etc. You should see the pride that they felt for it because now they had some sort of understanding of the mural. It wasn't just something that they saw. It's because they knew the ideology, they knew the thought. But for me, I grew up in advertising, so I kind of know how to schmooze a little bit.
Yeah.
And so I
Yeah.
understand that schmoozing people over a little bit, it just helps with the delivery of
Yes.
the ultimate, goal. And so
Yeah.
like I ended up, it killed me to be working from 4 in the morning because the sun rises pretty early here, and so you can start working at 4 a.m. in the morning
Yeah.
because I'm crazy like that. So that by the time it's 9 o'clock, I can have conversations with people, have
Yeah.
coffee, sit with old people, and talk about life and stuff like that. But if I
But
don't do
so,
that, then it's like it's once again it's a missed opportunity. And every time I've
yeah.
done this, I have because I spoke to this person or that person end up going to somebody else, getting that person out of their bed or getting this person out of their existential funk to just
Mm.
come and pop over. Oh, I asked my teenage son to come and see this cool guy paint, busy painting, and the teenage son will be like, what do you know, mom? You don't know any cool people. And then I'll have these kids show up and be like, they see the sneakers, they see I'm playing, I'm playing rap music and I'm playing Cuban inspired Nigerian music, all these different kinds of music, and I can see it's messing with people. And then I love kids as well. Then all the kids come, and then I know how to deal with the kids better than teachers. So it's like that becomes interesting as well, that I actually know how to deal with the kids. So then even delivering a message there, it becomes like very, they never see, the teacher said that they've never seen students putting their hands up that much before. Because I mean, it's like nobody wants to put their hand up, nobody wants to be seen. But I try to create that environment, which
Yeah.
takes a lot of energy, but a hell of a lot of energy.
But do you feel like it's just something you have to do?
I
Like
have
it's
to
all,
do it. It's my
yeah,
mission. It's like
yeah,
that. That's why, like, I mean, it's my mission. And that's why
yeah.
I don't mind being like, I speak at, the last thing I spoke at was like this mental health thing. Um,
Yeah, because that was going to be my next question. Like versus earlier on, you spoke about being involved in the communities, right? And talking at community projects and so forth. So I was just curious, where are you at with that? Because, and you actually didn't finish telling me about, you told me about the beach and then you didn't tell me about the other two incidences, just for clarity, because I
yeah,
do have a lot of interviews of people really trying to help on the mental awareness. And it's just, I think your conversation's also just so nice for, just for people to listen to. But when I say people, that's too general. It's just a cool conversation for someone to tap into
yeah,
who has gone through those dark moments and just hear like you're a real person. And that's why I love these stories and I love to give these stories the time, because
yeah.
it's not an interview in like, oh, I don't have any questions prepared because I don't know who you are. So I don't know what to
I
ask
love
you.
that.
It's
I really, really love that. And I mean, that's why I've been so, like, even my story, I never used to think that there was any value to my story, that there was nothing. I couldn't really add much to like to the landscape of life. Like, I mean, there's nothing interesting about my life or anything like that. And it's just, that's just the misconception. It's such a crazy misconception. And I've lived this lie, for a large portion of my life. And the mental health thing, like, it's just in our communities, there's virtually no grappling thereof. And when I talk about my communities, it's like even in the colored community, like, it's unspoken. Like even the same with like in
mental health is
mental
unspoken.
health. Mental health is unspoken. It's one of those things. It's like you don't acknowledge it. You have to literally don't acknowledge it, because it's just, if you give it any time of day, then it'll take over your life. You know, you just gotta like keep trudging on, and that's the problem that I have with it, is that like I'm fairly well read, and I mean I try to inform myself in a whole bunch of things, and I try to like, I've had a good life in terms of what is perceived as supposed to be a good life, having loving parents, having support, you know like in terms of just having that loving parent, for example, which a lot of people don't have. um, so it gets hard, like I mean it's just, I don't know. So you feel guilty for almost thinking that your life is terrible, and that things are bad. Why do I think this? Why do I have all these horrible thoughts? Why do I think so poorly about myself? And then you just hush, hush, hush. Everything's hush. You keep it to yourself. You have all of these thoughts, and you have these insecurities, but you keep it to yourself, and you don't have a platform for communication. And I've mentioned these things before to my folks, because it doesn't feel good, it doesn't feel right, but it's just a out of touch kind of, there's a inability to understand what this all entails. And so like for me, that's what's so tricky about all of this, because it's all things that could have been resolved, you know very early, at very early stages already. But
So resolved had you
just,
just had the time to sit down and
yeah,
chat.
like even a therapist, just like a simple thing like going to see a therapist, like an actual psychologist,
So
not
it doesn't have to be a parent if you look back
doesn't
on
have
that
to be a
time.
parent. Yeah, like I think it's just like general conversation, even friendships. Even friendships. Like I never had friendships that were open like that. It's only later in life that I started like fostering that kind of like sifting and wanting that for myself, and then searching for people that embodied that kind of like qualities. But I mean, it's tough to like be.
Realizing that you needed the friendships, or was it a craving of the friendships, or that you needed and wanted to value friendship?
I'm a loyal person, and I just needed that kind of reciprocation. Like I knew what kind of friend I wanted to be to somebody, but I knew that I kind of wanted a little bit of it as well. I wanted some validations, and I wanted somebody to speak sternly to me and tell me things like in that kind of loving yet strangely harsh way, but when they know you know that they've got your back, and I'm glad that I have those people right now. I have those people who tell me straight to my face, like where I'm going wrong and what I need to do here and there, and because I'm also open and I'm just vulnerable, I'm learning so much faster. So like I'm just thinking of like being younger and being more open, being more okay with conversations and dialogues and this and that, and not overthinking and thinking things are going to be horrible, talking and opening up to this person or that person. They're going to hate me. They're not going to appreciate. Like even with my parents, it was like a letdown, like for them to think that I'm thinking all these bad thoughts or like contemplating my life and all of these things. It's like you just think of the shame and you think of how much that impacts on other
But three
people.
times, that's a lot of
That's a
times.
lot of time,
Like,
like, and I mention it like it's nothing now, whereas
yeah,
before it
I
was
do.
like,
I see that. Yeah.
before it was like serious. Like I would I would never mention it because for me it was like, I'm pretty sure people are gonna despise me and people are gonna think, oh yeah, no, that was like a cop out, or because I have so much people saying that, like literally saying that that's kind of selfish of you to do that, and it's kind of thoughtless of you to do this, but it's like you overrun with wave after wave. Like me, I'm an overthinking individual, so that is quite a thing to deal with when you have this overactive mind, and that's always trying to look at things from different angles, but most times those angles are just, it's not real. It's just the fabrication that you in your mind. And so like for me, I have this overactive mind that really just runs away with itself, gets very creative with the potentials of things. So that's why if I had the right kind of skill set from an early on, like from an earlier stage in my life, I think I would have overcome certain hurdles and maybe have, been in a better place. But I mean, that in itself is like, to reflect like that, it's not going to help anything. So I really just, I'm glad that I'm in this position now where,
No, but that won't help. And again, it's like I say, you're going down that same rabbit hole, right?
mhm,
Saying had I.
yeah,
But what it will help is in reflecting on it, because you have such a passion for working with kids,
mhm,
is that awareness and the connecting and using this gift that you have of creating these beautiful, intriguing and dramatic and emotional works of art, coupled with the message of life and of the importance of life, and of how to be precious about it, so it is important to reflect on that and to
yeah,
go down that rabbit hole, so that you have the perspective for perhaps this message going forward.
yeah, and that's what, like, I mean, even now, I've rid myself of this kind of these, of what other people are thinking. Like, so even now, that's why I mentioned 3 times, because it's just, it doesn't matter anymore what the next person thinks. Um, but like, I do like to shed light on the fact that somebody like myself can actually get to that point, because there was always this misconception that like somebody like me would never, yeah, it's like people would never have assumed that I was that guy that, would even have an inkling of a thought, to do something like that. Like it was completely foreign to people. And that is crazy. That's crazy to think that, like, I've been exposed to so many people. I speak so often and nobody would have picked up anything. And that just shows like people are very consumed in their own lives, and if you don't keep your finger on that pulse, like, I mean, you could lose certain, you could miss certain things that, that needs to be addressed. And that's why, like, I see a lot of traits in my daughter, for example, and it's scary. It's scary because, like for me, I didn't think that my kids would embody certain elements, like the negative elements. You don't think about that. You don't think of the negative elements that they might embody, genetic kind of carryovers.
Mm.
So I see certain personality traits in my daughter that are exactly the same like me, exactly the same. And my wife doesn't quite understand how to deal with it. But then for me, it's just like, wow, she's so
Mm.
young and already she has this thing in, kicking into place, this way of viewing things. And so, I mean,
Does your daughter know that you tried to take your life 3 times?
she doesn't know that I tried to take my life, but I'm very open about my depression. She knows I'm having tough times. Like even now, like I'm open with her about.
Do you take something for the depression?
Yes,
Okay.
which is also something that I didn't do before, because I was one of those guys that just like, I'm not going to surrender myself over to medication and all these things. I have, kind of, I always thought that I was going to beat it by myself, just
Mm.
my own kind of interventions
Mm.
and things. But uh, weirdly enough, Ree was one of those people that said, hey, kind of helps. It's just a crutch, It's not going to
Yeah.
be a fix all. It's just going to be something that can kind of give you some peace of mind, and just
Mm.
and that's what it did. Like, I mean, for me, it's like it slowed my overthinking um, demeanor down dramatically, and then also I could sleep, so I could
Which
start
is that's
essential.
the yeah.
So I have
That's
a
the
balance. I've just got that good balance at the moment now,
yeah.
and health, fitness, just nutrition, the whole thing. So that
Yeah.
became very important. But I mean, it's like I had to learn all of those things the hard way, which is like just dipping my nose into it and then falling, face first hard. And that's why, like, I mean, I embrace all of these kind of things going pear shaped to some degree, because it's like,
And as you say it, this big grin
listen,
comes on your face again. You love anytime you say something about just spank me. Well, you did say spank me. What did you say? Just hit me, or I don't know. It's like
come on, I'll take it on the chin. Um, but yeah, no, it's like I don't know. There's a lot going on at the moment, and I'm very drawn into it, and I think that's gonna, like, I'm looking forward to my work as well, because this was also that interim period. I'm painting this mural as this last kind of little bit of freedom that I have before I start this spiritual process of oil painting.
okay.
I become a different person when I'm painting oils. I'm I switch over.
Do you take yourself more seriously or?
Yes, way
Mm.
more, and it's meditative, and I can't have distractions. So like for me, this is like when wintertime is when I go into like a little bit of a cocoon. It's like my hibernation process. And
Mm.
it's like when I go and paint and I lose myself, and like the stuff that comes out of this period is usually it's the most interesting. Summertime is kind of like, summer and fall is just, it has its perks, it has its, there's niceties that comes with it, but like winter is where I like dealing with the hard shit. And so like for me, this is where like I've processed a hell of a lot of things, and now when I paint in oils, it's the brush, it's the smells, it's the colors, the saturations, it's everything. It's very different. I create very differently with oils. even versus like oils versus acrylics and all of these kind of mediums, they all
Yeah.
um, bring about something, a different value within me that I like. But oil painting is it's the last thing that I'm trying to master. It's not the last thing, but it was like the last thing that I tried to do. I never painted in oils, and then I was like one day just decided I'm gonna paint like Van Gogh, and
Yeah.
because I loved his work, and his work has always like meant a lot. And then when I saw Van Gogh's work, it was just like the relationship. I fully understood the way he paints. Like I understand the way he paints, and I know how he paints, and I know why he paints the way that he paints because I feel that. I feel it.
Yeah.
Feel the way his brushstroke carried that emotional content. All of those things. That's the way that I paint now. And you can see some traits in it, but I mean, I've tapped into that ability to see color in a different way, to see tone, to see flesh, to see flesh tone, even not as just the standard. Oh, let's use skin tone. And for me, I see the blues, I see the green,
Yes. Yeah.
and it's like it's those kind of things that like pop out for me, and even like painting like Lucian Freud, like incredibly highly detailed
Yeah.
portraitures, and his work is like it's. I like that micro detail thing. That's I have that
Minuscule detail. Yeah.
minuscule detail. I like that, but then I
Mm.
also like
Mm.
that cathartic big stroke.
Yeah. The more sort of, yeah, the more buttery stroke in a
Yes, the
way.
thick layered,
Yeah.
paint. So like, I mean, I have to appease all of these different needs within me, and it's
Which
like
is which is a gift to be able to do, and it's a gift you've given yourself,
it
as I
is.
said earlier. Yeah.
And I'm very aware of that because it requires a fair amount of fearlessness, like, and and for me, it's like that's how I get to live out this because I'm very fearful in my normal life, like in just my day to day kind of as I am, but then and that's what art gives me is this kind of an opportunity to be fearless again. It's like, well,
Yeah.
because this is the only thing that I'm in control of. Now I'm gonna flex it as however I want. And that's why, like, I miss coming to Cape Town and making the last show that I had was at Salon 91. And it was a really well received show and did really well. But I create differently when I'm also in different spaces. So when I was in Cape
Yeah.
Town, it's like it triggers different sensations and that ultimately results in something interesting. So that's why I need to come back to Cape Town. I need to not even necessarily Cape Town, just to Africa. Like, and I need Africa. I need the lifeblood. There's something. There's energy. There's something in it that recharges me, recharges my soul. Um,
I think everyone needs to just connect with their roots, whether it's in Africa or
totally.
Timbuktu, right? Everyone needs to go and just feel their Mother Earth,
Yeah,
and just connect with that again,
yeah, totally. And for me, it's like it's become very important that I honor that. Before, it wasn't part of it wasn't part of the process. It wasn't part of anything. I wouldn't give it the time of day. But like now, it's just like because I haven't been back for such a number of years now. It's hitting hard, and even with COVID and all this, you don't
Yeah.
have the choice to just go as you would like now. Now it's like you
Yeah.
actually have to think really hard about whether you're going to be able to come back to the country, make it across the borders, and all of these things. So it's crazy. But I mean, I'm using the time wisely, like think deeply about all of these things, and that's why I mean, like I said, now going this week was the last week that I had for doing this type of things, like things that are fun
The
and
mural, yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
They're interesting, and you get to meet people, and you get to do all these different things. But like, yeah, after this, I go back home, and I've spent a month and a bit doing therapy here. So like, I've been in the city, so we're looking after
So
myself.
are you in the city now and your
Yeah.
wife's back at your house and you've been breaking away just to get things
Yeah,
straight?
just to think, just to gauge, the craziness. because I think
Yeah.
like when you're just there in it the whole time, and you're, in the familiar environment, like, for me, that was my cage, I love my home. It looked cool, it feels cool. I've got art everywhere. It's like, aesthetically
Mm.
pleasing, but
But is this your apartment now, or where are you
it's
now?
my friend's place.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, and so it's like, but even being here, this is leaning into trusting people. I've been here for people. I'm always there for people, but I never take help from people. So this is also a lesson for me to just learn how to trust in my vulnerable
Mm.
state. So like, even this was like a lesson for me to be there for people that I've been there for, and to ask for help and to be vulnerable in that regard. So I'm glad that like even my friends, yeah, they were all too happy to help me, because yeah, I'm the guy you can phone in the middle of the night, 2, 4 a.m. and
Mm.
ask me to come and help you with something, and I will. Like, I'm that guy. So um, I never really asked for help, and so this was like a lesson for me, like driving to the city. Is like,
Once
yeah,
again, that big smile on your
yeah.
face because you're going into the chaos of the unknown.
And I've learned how to smile. I smile through the chaos now. Like,
But so from my understanding then you had some things with your partner and you just needed to break away and get some time away. And this is where you called your friend, say, listen, I just need time solo just to be with people I trust and figure things out.
yeah, like
Okay.
even the pressure of like being in that small community. That's why, like, it's all those things. It's all those things.
Was it a
I
pressure
need,
to
I need,
call?
I
Was it a
need
pressure to call? Being also because it's you and your partner, did that, or it wasn't really that, it was more just the pressure to ask for help.
Well, the thing is, like with us, like we're the picture perfect couple. You know, everything looks good on paper, um, but there's so much going on behind closed doors. So it's one of those kind of things, and then you have the stress and strains of a physician, COVID,
Yeah, tough
you know,
job. Yeah.
tough job, tough job, and having to manage all of these expectations, managing people, and my wife is also at the senior end of things, so it's like she's at the helm of decision making as well. So there's a lot of pressure that comes with that. So that's been very taxing on on the family dynamic. And over the years, it's been hard for me to make transitions, because I'm like living in isolation, and so I don't get to meet people as frequently. And I need people. Like, I'm very chatty.
Yeah.
I need my community, my tribe. So I haven't had that. I haven't had the luxury of having that. And
Yeah,
my
exactly. She can go
very
to work.
you can go to
She
work.
gets it at work, but you're an artist, so it's solo work.
Yeah, and so like you end up relying on your partner, you end up relying on them when they come back. But they have had their day. They've had their full day. They are done with people. They are done with giving their energy, and so it's those kind of things that it's just chipped away at the fabric of who we are and what we represent. So it's those little things that like really have put our whole relationship into full view. And then also it's all those resentments. Like, you asked me a couple of things about, like, the move to Canada. Like, so, like I said initially, like when um, my career was starting only, it was starting, and I started getting the recognition in South Africa that I'd always wanted, but it was literally at the beginning. And then, hey, we're going to Canada, and then that was a year process of just trying to get to another country. But it happened so quickly, and then all of a sudden we're in another country, and then, you know, so now my name is starting to get out there to some degree, but now I can't do any of the normal stuff. I can't meet the normal people. I can't do the usual things because I've given myself over to another person, and we now making our life for ourselves. But that life also, we've grown so much because of the circumstances. So like each one has grown in different ways. So I think we've grown apart. We've grown very much apart, and um, like even that, like it's hard for me to deal with that because like I did imagine myself growing old, and being like all I wanted was just to be a dad, a good dad. Very simplistic. Like I'm very simplistic. I'm very like I mean I'm happiest when I'm just playing with my kids. Um, and I'm still a big kid, to be honest. I'm just like a
Yeah.
big boy. Um, so this is hard. It's a hard territory for me to be in. But it's the first time that I'm actually able to make decisions for myself. It's the first time that I've had independence to like actually gauge what it is that I want for myself. So like I mean, that being said, as much as it's hard, it's also a very interesting place to be for myself because I've grown so much and I haven't really taken stock of how much I've grown and I haven't honored anything. That with that growth, you need to like, look after how much you've kind of grown. And so I haven't been, feeding my roots, feeding, parts of my being. So, and I've, that need to always please people. Because everything was failing around me. So I was always the guy that always felt the need to please, please, please. Um, that's not healthy. So that with that same mechanism in a relationship, like you sabotage yourself, just trying to please somebody else, and yeah. But I mean, it's like I'm in the thick of it. It's still happening, and it's
Yeah.
still happening
Yeah.
right
Yeah.
now. But I'm figuring it
But
out, and it's interesting. Like life is.
yeah. Well, you're in that same space where you know what I'm feeling. You're in that same space where, when you worked for MediClinic and you said by the end of the year, I'm going to leave. I don't know where I'm going, but I'm going to leave. It's that transition. It's the same thing when you quit that job after that first day and you thought this is not how I'm going to spend my life, right? You quit it and you walked out and you came across, the guy who said come do the graphic design, right? You're in that space, I feel like
Yeah,
hearing you right now, and I think that's way more healthy to be where you are right now than to stay knowing it's wrong, or to stay thinking it'll get better. Like you just need to break away sometimes for it to get better. You need to.
completely. And I think that just that severing of ties. Like I mean, I never entertained that thought at all. Because it was just I didn't want that. So like now, like things have panned out where ties have been severed, but this has been the most growth that I've had in my life, because of this. So, it just
Yeah.
teaches me once again, just lessons to be taken from all of these things, and I'm really just trying to drink it all in. And it's making me like see things and I'm a little bit more wiser than I was before. And this was just in a month, of losing everything dear to me. And like even having to drop your kids off. That's not something I envisioned, having to go drop your kids off with.
Are you sharing 1 week, or something like that,
Yeah,
or not?
and like I'm trying to get back into the community now. So like I moved back to an apartment on Friday,
Yeah.
which is like new for me. I haven't lived by myself for a long time, and it's just like I'm gonna go and live by myself now. What is that gonna look like? Oh my God! Like,
Wow.
so I'm gonna have to like carve out a new little lane for myself. But instead of being all like, I'm actually just laughing it off, and I'm very happy, and I'm just optimistic.
Yeah.
It's gonna work out
Yeah.
because like everything has been panning out in ways that it's beyond me. I'm just a vessel. I'm a vessel right now, and I'm in a very spiritual kind of place. I mean, this is the closest I've been to like church, for my own life. It's just all of
But
this,
church within yourself, you mean, like a
yeah,
peace?
church within myself. Like I feel like this is all. I'm at peace, even though, like, I mean, every time I mention something crazy, that I laugh. But I mean, this is how I'm literally trying to cope with everything. I'm dealing with it, and I'm smiling because it's like I know that the lessons are way more important. Um, and that trajectory for me is like, why am I having to learn all of these lessons? Like why do I have to learn all of these lessons right now, all at once? What is what's the overall kind of meaning behind all of these things? And for me, it's just like I want to create my own meaning. I want this to mean something. I want this to like have symbolism. Um, and everything does have some sort of symbolism now, just the way everything's working out, because I'm surrendering. Um, and I've also just been like also looking into Taoism and all of these things. So it's
Oh
just
yeah.
being like water and living your life like water, and just go with the flow. Like I'm there, and not trying to just be in control and like trying to stop things, and
Yeah.
um, just let things be. If things need to run its course, things need to be a little bit wild at the moment. You need to then just go with it. Um, but it has been enlightening. Um, so even this, like, I mean, having a conversation like this on a platform like this, like, I mean, I've been saying I want to talk about these things in a public capacity, and then you come along, which is, I mean, you've sent me messages before, but then the timing of it was just like perfect. It was just perfect. Like, it's aligned with the need. If we had to talk before, it would not have it would not have been anything like this. I wouldn't have had any sort of this kind of content to it at all, because I wasn't at that point in my life. And so like now it's just very interesting that we get to talk about something. I feel even more. I feel more also okay with saying a lot of these
Yeah.
things, and also stories is very important to me. Like, so, getting the stories across. So the timing of this is really
Yeah.
impressive. Once again, it's no timing and no planning involved. There's none of these things, and also just the way that you even approaching this whole thing without the script. And I mean, initially I was kind of nervous, but then I reassured myself that there's no need to be nervous, because we are just shooting, from the hip, and let's just see where it goes. This is like my strong point. Like, this is what I like. I said, look at myself.
Yeah.
It's actually just babbling on and on and on. Um, I'm not really knowing where I'm going with something, but I'm just like, I can babble. Um, so it was nice to have this kind of platform to be able to do this.
Yeah.
Also have a message, also have some sort of um,
Well,
yeah,
I definitely, um, I string dots together in conversation like you do on paper
yeah,
and in your art. And um, I think, there's, for me, what really jumped out, and I always sort of have this, like, I don't sit and meditate, simply because I actually just don't have time
yeah,
before the interview. Like, but I always have this sort of quick conversation with my universal God and say, whatever needs to come out, let it come out. Like, just because I think that when you communicate, you connect with love, and obviously truth, but it's in that connection is love. So that's also what I seek. It's like you said, I live for love. I live
yeah.
for love too, like this,
Oh, amazing. I
yeah.
mean, like,
And
there's so much to like learn from these experiences. That's why I mean, I mean, before I would have turned this down, like I would have turned it down, because I back then I didn't understand the value that something like this has, and that it can impart to other people as well. Um, and I still have so many people who think podcasts and doing this kind of thing is just, who wants to listen to your shit, like, who wants to listen to like
so
what
many people.
so many people think it's like a waste of time and stuff like that. But I mean, like, just another interesting thing that I did like a few weeks ago is that I randomly feeling down on a Sunday, I ended up walking by the river, and then all of a sudden there was like this art show happening, and it was just a bunch of vendors selling art, and then they had this one booth where you could just sit down and paint. They had like just canvases, and you could just sit and paint. Like me, just when I go sit down and paint as well. And then it was a Sri Lankan girl who was a biochemist, and this was a hobby, was art, and she was trying to sell her work as well. But then this gentleman, he ends up coming by, and he ends up wanting to buy the art. But he didn't care about the art so much. He cared about the story. And he's just like, but tell me about yourself, And he just wanted to know about this woman. And I was like, I busy painting, and I'm just really taken aback by this conversation. And then after the conversation was done, he purchased the work and everything, and he was busy, like, taking out his cash, and he paid. And then he was just busy putting all his stuff away, about to walk away. And I actually went up to him and was just like, there was such a beautiful transaction now between you and this woman. Like I said, like just to see somebody take an interest in somebody's story, I just like want to commend you, like, on doing that, like, in public. And I know this is weird for just a random guy coming up to you, but I mean, I just wanted to commend you on that. He's like, we ended up having a half an hour conversation. We exchanged numbers. We ended up having supper the very next day. Um, he turns out to be this a strategist, an educational strategist who happens to be a stoic. So he
Wow.
believes in stoicism, like the whole thing. This man is the embodiment of all these things that I've been like the literature. So here's the physical embodiment of a man, and he's like he's 59, almost 60. So he's 59. So it's like this is out of my comfort zone. I just went and had a conversation, just called him out on the beauty of the story, just like him wanting to know the story of this woman's life and taking the time out, like to want to know more about her. And I could see it meant so much to this woman to explain, but it was uncharted territory because she couldn't explain herself so well, but he was just so kind and so gentle. He was just so kind and gentle, like he's done this before. Like, he's pro at
Yeah.
doing this kind of thing. And then yeah, we ended up having, now we good friends. And
Wow.
and I mean, that's something
Beautiful.
that I love, those kind of interactions. And I would never have done that before, where it's like now I'm just like I'm so in tune with something else and I'm really going with it, but I get the results. Like, I mean, I get the affirmation. Like, I mean, I could easily have been punched in the face and like but out of my
Yeah,
conversation,
but your
I feel
instinct
like,
told you otherwise,
but the
right? I
instinct told
mean,
me otherwise, and I end up leaning in and just doing it,
yeah.
and then I end up
Yeah.
getting this so much from this man, which I didn't know existed before. And then yeah, it's just now he's this voice of reason, a stranger. But you see, like, but explaining that to my partner, my wife, who doesn't function like that, she's not driven by those impulses, and
Yeah,
then
and yeah, I know what you mean because
you end up looking weird.
my whole family on my husband's side are all doctors and specialists and neurologists, eye
There you go.
surgeons, cardiologists. They all doctors, and my husband was the only one who was like the black sheep. But the thing is we often together, right? So especially in the Netherlands, but now I've just recently come here. But I understand what it's. There's a certain way of living life where you trust the unknown.
Yeah,
It's not, because it's not science. It's
it's not
not
science.
it's
It's,
not medicine. It's
yeah,
not proven. So there's a very certain way of conducting your life in that way.
yeah.
What I want to know is, just because we're going to lead towards closing off now, what I want to know is, when did you change from bison to to Linsey LevenDaal?
When I started having like an identity crisis, like, because I already couldn't identify with my past being brown. I didn't know my roots and all these kind of
And
things.
when you say brown,
Being a
brown you
brown boy,
refer
mixed
to,
race, being mixed
huh?
race boy, just being a mixed.
Okay, so a white mom. Were both your folks brown, or was one white, one black, or?
Both my folks are brown,
Okay, yeah,
but genetics. So on my dad's side, like, great great grandfather was an Irishman, you know.
okay,
So it's like, and on my mother's side, there's Malaysian kind of blood.
yeah,
I mean,
okay,
hence my
yeah.
hair. That's my everyone else has a little bit more ethnic kind of strand, and then me, I'm like straight hair because of my mom. And then so like I end up I look very different. I look very, like, I mean, even now, like, people don't know where the hell I'm from.
Yeah.
So I get asked all the time, are you from Mexico? Are you from this? From all places.
Oh,
They
wow.
don't
Especially
ask.
especially being in Canada, right? I
Oh,
suppose.
I'm a conundrum to a lot of people. They just don't know how to figure me out. But anyway, so
Yeah.
that identity issue it fed into that same thing. Like when I started making a name for myself as Bison, and I'm like, but I'm Linsey, I'm Linsey. And I'm like, it's becoming weird that I'm having to put stuff out there through this other vehicle, and I'm like, I'm the guy making this stuff. Like, why am I not putting my own name out there? Why am I not embracing myself? Why am I having to go through this? Trying to keep my presence, anonymous. Like, I wanted to embrace who I was, and I didn't know who I was. So it's like this was like a first little step, was just to own my name, just to own who I was, and that was like a big step for me. So it's an interesting question because, like, I mean, I don't get asked that one quite often, and but yeah, that transition happened because of an identity crisis. it was having, this thing, Bison, just starting to take off and starting to mean so
Mm.
much.
Mm.
And I was just scared that I was going to get lost again in something that had started with this rebellious nature, and then was starting to kind of gain traction, but then was
Under the
starting
wrong name.
under the wrong name, and it started
Mm.
being just, me.
So did you come, all those questions you said, did you come to peace with who you were, like an acceptance with who you were for all the reasons that you didn't give your name?
Yes, yes. Like, that's why I'm at peace now. Like, now
Mm.
I know my name.
Mm.
It's like I don't have to explain Bison at all. Like,
Mm.
that's just a chapter in my life now. It's not like I'm defined solely by that, and
Mm.
that's what I wanted. But if I didn't do that back then, I think I would still been, a lot of people would still
So
be.
when did you do it?
This was when I worked with Rhythm. So, like,
So then
that's
you changed it, yeah.
so that was the whole thing, because, like, my confidence started peaking. I started, like, working with actual artists. I started working with people that call themselves artists. So, like, for me, I had almost the go ahead to call myself an artist, because I was working
Mm.
with people that were revered. You go to meetings, and they're working on our project, and everyone else is having to, listen to what's being said, because we are in charge, like Shy the Sun. And you had all these outside subsidiaries, like, helping out and chipping in, and you had people making this project come alive, right? So, like,
Yeah.
for me, that was cool. That was cool and different. So I needed to. That was like the start of me just discovering that it was okay for me to embrace that I
Yeah.
am an artist, that I am in this space, and so, like, take on your name, take
Yeah.
on, like, own your name. And so that's why, like, now I feel I've made all even the struggling over the years has culminated into, like, me being fairly strong and being fairly confident in my abilities, and also how I view myself. uh,
Yeah.
yeah, which is a good thing, which is, like, I'm glad that I separated Bison from myself. um, and also I started creating most of the work, so it was this dual thing. It was started out as, like, me and my friend,
Yes.
but then somehow, I just kept on pushing, 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 and he had other avenues that he wanted to explore. So I just kept on going, 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 and I haven't stopped. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Cool.
but yes, that's
Well,
I'm just
I
gonna
think what's a nice place to end on is what you said earlier. You said it's winter coming and you're really looking forward to, sorry, the sun is setting here, so my eyes look like they,
beautiful.
ironically, because you're an eyes man. So, but so um while I'm wanting to talk about the darkness, my whole face is lit up. That's why I'm actually, because I'm also creative, I see everything in creativity. So, and like metaphors. And anyway, but what I want to end off on, and I think is really beautiful, and I also just, like salute you for being open about your journey, and really just, yeah, just fucking take it or leave it, who's ever listening. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm
Exactly.
human, and I feel, and I live life, and I've lived it to the, you can't ever say you never lived your life to the full.
No, no,
That's for sure.
no, no.
Um and what's really beautiful to, for me anyway, to sort of leave off on is how you talk about going into the winter and really like just embracing the darkness. And I think that's just such a beautiful metaphor to our conversation, of,
I love that, because that is
yeah.
that is exactly what I believe in. I do embrace the darkness, and it's like that yin and yang. It's I see them as balance. The one gives the other one meaning. So, um, I don't know. I think that's an ideal way to end off, because, like, given
Yeah.
my work delves into that, and it's like me, it's just sifting through all of that. I think we all have demons, and we all have, personal darkness, and that
Absolutely.
looks different for everybody. So I think it's just, for that to be on people's minds and on their consciousness to work, and to be, aware of those things. It's just not always just like, you don't have to take it all, but just process some of it, some of the darkness. So, like, I'm happy with ending off on that. That makes me pretty
Cool.
happy. But yeah,
Cool.
this was very interesting to have this kind of dialogue, and yeah, I wish you all of the all of the best, because it's crucial that people have their stories out there, and also finding interesting people to talk about these kind of topics. It's bravo for
Thank you.
doing this type of your form of creativity and doing what your purpose requires from you. So big ups to that as well.
Yeah, thanks, Lindsay. And hopefully, maybe, who knows when you come. So when you do come to South Africa, let me know.
Oh yeah.
Ironically, I just happen to be going to Cape Town this weekend for a whole week. So, and I'm going to be walking with Ree on the Cape of Good Hope and I told her I'm
Bring
going to bring
it in.
oysters and champagne.
How dare you? That just that's unfortunate. I feel like I'm
I'm
definitely
sorry. We'll
enjoy one or two. I
we'll
know,
send you some
yeah.
pics.
Enjoy a few glasses too much.
Yeah.
Like no. I'm very glad that
Cool,
this
Lindsay. Have an
eventually
amazing
happened,
day,
and
and
so
I'll
yeah,
stay in
like just keep.
contact. I never just disappear after an interview because I know that they are personal, and so you'll hear from me again.
Oh, it's no problem. I'm elusive though, so like if you hear from me
Oh
again,
yeah, true. I won't expect any reply.
expect it, but just not on your time.
Okay, fine. Yeah,
But
I've got
lovely
that.
chatting to you, Jen.
You
Yeah,
too.